We have a quorum of 5 for the meeting. Dan, the public announcement, please.
Please be advised the notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act have been complied with and satisfied that the annual notice will give sufficient notice of the time, place, and conduct of all public meetings of the planning board of the city of New Brunswick has been filed with the city clerk and has been placed on appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall, 78 Bayard Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to official newspapers of the city of New Brunswick, namely the home news.
Louder.
We can't hear.
All right, I'll do it again. That's fine. Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act have been complied with and satisfied, and that the annual notice, which gives sufficient notice of the time, place, and conduct of all public meetings of the planning board of the city of New Brunswick, has been filed with the city clerk and has been placed on an appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall, 78 Bayard Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspapers of the city of New Brunswick, namely the Home News Tribune and Star Ledger.
Thanks, Dan. I want to proceed to the salute to the flag, but before we do that, you folks who are standing, I just want to let you know that there is adequate seating. So please, you're welcome to stand there, but you're welcome also to come and folks can move over and provide you with additional seating. To be courteous.
People wouldn't have been able to pay to the council and into the
All
hall.
rise to the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dan, the resolutions for memorialization.
Yes, for 11 Spring Street LLC, Urban Renewal LLC, which was the application that we had on the last applicant meeting. You'll have it with your packets, the resolution, if there's any comments or changes or anything necessary.
Are there any comments from board members on the resolution? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second?
I second.
That was Yulitza, yes?
Yes.
For second? Yulitza Checo?
Yes.
Suzanne Sikora Ludwig?
Yes.
Bob Hardigan?
Yes. Okay, it looks like we have only one item, new business to the board. This is New Street Associates, LLC, address 40 Livingston Avenue, known as The Live, block 129, lots 3.01 and 3.02. The board is considering preliminary and final master plan application in order to construct a new 23-story multifamily mixed-use building with residential units as well as retail space. And the New Brunswick Elks Lodge will be included as well as structured parking. And the project is located in the New Brunswick Downtown Redevelopment Plan area and is represented today by Peter Lanford. Do I have that correct?
No, I have to disappoint everyone. Peter had a personal issue and cannot be here, but he sends his regrets. But I'm Jim Stoll, S-T-A-H-L, a member of the firm of Boris Gold and Foley. You know Hyman Stoll. I've been here before, and I'm supposed to be better looking, but not as smart as Peter. So you've got me tonight.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Peter MacArthur. I'm an attorney from MacArthur Law, 75 Lane Road, Suite 204, Fairfield, New Jersey. I represent Albus Associates, 83 Morris Street here in New Brunswick. My first procedural question is the occupancy load of this room. Has it been exceeded tonight? There's people in the hallway.
There are people in the hallway. I don't believe the occupancy has been exceeded.
Please speak up.
Can't say that for sure.
Can't hear you.
I do not believe occupancy has been exceeded for this room, although there's certainly a fair showing. We do have some persons standing, but there is adequate seating.
And please, I don't want to get involved in an argument with this young man. The doors are open. If people want to stand in the hallway, they're not within the load. and we'll all make sure that we speak loudly and clearly enough to provide information to everyone.
We'll try. Maybe when you speak, you should kind of face, you don't necessarily have to face the board.
All right.
I think we can proceed.
May I just ask, since it's my application, I just
Sure.
want to get to the jurisdiction.
Sure.
And you, Dan and Mr. Solomon, I assume you've received our affidavits of publication and affidavit of service, and does the board have jurisdiction for my application tonight?
I have
Excuse me, can
I have an objection to
to me,
the notice.
How about, give us a second.
They can't work together, I don't know what the building.
I didn't know she's working. I have a big one.
Okay.
Mr. Solomon.
Give us a moment, please.
You have it? Okay. I think that one of the arguments is Mr. Albish, and I referred you to a certified receipt dated November 2 to Albish.
Mrs. Are you waiting for me? I'm sorry. I don't mean to-
I'm sorry?
Are you waiting for me? I don't mean to hold you up.
No, look, you didn't hold me up at all, Mr. Solomon. We sort of knew that this was coming, and I don't understand. I have an affidavit of service, and it's got green receipts. It has a stamp from Mr. Albish Associates, a stamp of the United States Postal Service, dated November 2, 2023. I also have a certified list provided by this office, by either Mr. Dominguez, not trying to get personal, but from your planning office. Based upon that list, we served Albish Associates at 83 Marsh Street, New Brunswick, New Jersey, 08901. It did not come back, and that's a certified mailing, and under the MLUL, I'm entitled to rely upon it. And the council wants to.
And I'm not objecting to the fact that my client got notice. He did get notice. I'm objecting to the substance of the notice.
Oh.
So I'll wait till the chair decides it's the appropriate time to comment.
All right, hold on.
It appears, the Chairman, Mr. Solomon, that, so the issue is not service, the issue is the
Substance of
content.
the notice, yes.
Huh.
Why don't we address that?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to address that?
Yes, I can.
All right, let's proceed. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair and ladies and gentlemen, I believe the substance of the matters to be considered element of the statute, section 11, has not been met by this notice. Specifically in the notice, the number of apartments and housing units is not set forth at 407. The number of parking spaces, 356, is not set forth. There is a banquet hall that I saw from the other documents that are in the, on the website. And a banquet hall is not a specific permitted use in this zone. That is not in the notice.
Are we looking at
Banquet
the
Is
same
that
notice?
associated with the Elks?
Are we looking at the same notice?
I'm saying the banquet hall is not there.
It's not notice?
It's not
I have it in the notes here. It says meeting banquet hall space.
And the Elks Club has, I understand, a club license, okay? There was an appellate division case, Pond Run Watershed versus Hamilton Township zoning board of adjustment, 397 New Jersey Super 325, which basically held that in that case, the notice did not mention the fact that there was a liquor license involved in the application. It is not mentioned here. In that case, the notice was held to be insufficient, and likewise should be the case here.
They have that license now, don't they?
I'm indicating when appellate division case law held notice to be improper in another case. It also doesn't indicate how many retail units and what type they are would be. Notice is jurisdictional, and that's the Stafford case, 299 New Jersey Super 188. Any action taken by the board after insufficient notice is void. At this point, I'd also, if it's appropriate.
You're saying that there was insufficient notice of this provided?
I'm saying that the substance of the notice was not met. The
Well,
substance was not sufficient.
Well, I would I won't use the word respectfully, I will disagree for the following reasons. Courts have indicated that you have to substantially comply with telling people what is going to occur. We've indicated this is a residential high-rise, it's a retail, we've indicated how many square feet, we've indicated loading area. I will tell you that I am ignorant of one issue, and I'm the first to admit my ignorance. The liquor license. Number one, this is a club license. If council wants to appeal any determination by this board, let him do so. But it is a club license. It is not a retail plenary license controlled. It's not a 33 or 32. It's a club license. If you say here, you know, that's for another day. I'm not transferring the license. The license is staying with the Elks. There's an existing use, existing license. It is not being transferred to the applicant. That is what he's talking about with regard to notice. If you're going to transfer the license, there is no transfer. So there's nothing going to change. I suggest to you that if you see this, it is 23-story mixed-use building, ground floor retail lobby, mail, etc. Resident club patio. I don't want to go through the notice. I take the position. It is far more detailed than it has to be, and I think this board has jurisdiction.
And again, the Pond Run case held that it was the absence of the notice, not the fact that it was transferred or not. So,
I mean, I see the license is relatively minor here. Just, I'm not an attorney. I also, want to point out that
Speak up,
the
please.
materials that the board received for this site plan are consistent with what we've received for in preliminary and final site plans for other developments in the city of New Brunswick. I didn't notice anything. There's always issues that are not resolved when we have these meetings. But I see it as consistent with what the board has reviewed in the past with other preliminary and final site applications. So I don't see any reason not to proceed this evening.
Mr. Chairman,
If that's your
I may,
intention.
just to put my final comment and not to argue with you, this is in a redevelopment zone. This is subject to redevelopment. There is a redevelopment plan that we must follow. I don't have it in front of me, but that we are guided by the plan, as is this board, and of course the board has to do what it has to do with regard to the site plan. So I'm willing to take the chance. Council wants to appeal it, assuming it is granted, we'll deal with it.
Okay.
redevelopment has nothing to do with notice, but
Well, you're saying that, but, we're coming in the last minute and raising these, I'm sorry.
I believe the chair has
I'm done.
adequately
I'm
ruled
sorry.
on the issue, and maybe we can proceed from here.
Yeah, I recommend that we proceed.
all right. I would just like to ask one more area to explore here. I would like to know if any of the board members have a conflict of interest with anybody that's involved in this application, such as the Oaks Club, or perhaps the applicant, or maybe even counsel that represents the applicant. Is there anybody on the board or a board member or a spouse, family, close friend that has a conflict?
I understand. Other than the fact that I've been in the Elks Club, I don't feel like I have any conflict. Others on the board, you
I'm
do?
a member of the Elks, so I have to recuse myself.
Okay. So, that means that we won't have a quorum to proceed with a vote by the board this evening, since we'll only have 4 board members able to vote. At the same time, I think with all these folks present, I really don't want to send you home and say come back in a month. My recommendation is that we proceed with the presentation, and that Dan and others can appraise other board members between now and the next meeting, and then we will kind of table the vote only for the next meeting or future date. How does that sound?
Thank you.
Okay? Let's proceed.
If I, the only clarification, Mr. Chairman, and you're the last person I'm going to argue with, of course. I submit that there is a quorum for the conduct of business to open a meeting. I know that one member, I think, is going to recuse himself because of an obvious conflict, and this was discussed with Mr. Solomon before the meeting. So the board can still conduct its business because it had the quorum. I think your solution is absolutely the appropriate solution, that additional board members who are not here tonight can review the transcript of tonight, certify that they have read it, and at the next planning board meeting, we can take a vote of the board.
That's what I'm saying.
And I,
Okay?
That concludes my objections, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
May I ask one question, Mr. Chairman, Council? Because different boards feel different. I'm going to put on my presentation, I have 3 witnesses, and then I assume council, if he wants, will question or raise issues when I'm done with my presentation. Would that be correct, Mr. Solomon?
It's the chairman's perspective.
I mean, I don't want to break up my presentation.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think you should present and then offer the gentleman an opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Well, not, well, when the other one's not being present, come on, I say you should do it when the other ones are present.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
I'm ready. Please proceed.
As I indicated, I do.
Try to speak loudly because.
I will.
Can't hear a word you're
brief,
saying.
Very brief introductions and very brief closings. Recognize the attention of the board takes to these matters.
I object. I can't hear anything he's saying, or even what you were saying sometimes. Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking to you.
I hear you.
Can't we use the mics? They're here.
Don't you have microphones?
I'll try it this way, Mr. Chairman. Dan's checking out. Not going to get
No, the other, so what's the other one? That one's double 17.
All right.
But I did turn those off. Let's just see.
All right, I'm gonna move over there where I'm a little bit closer to you, and hopefully one of those mics is working, because this one isn't. There we go.
All right, can you hear me now? Yes. All right, thank you. I will not do my usual song and dance. All right, my name is Jim Stahl, S-T-A-H-L. I represent the applicant, New Street Associates, who is proposing to develop a 23-story mixed-use building with residential, retail, including the Elks and including the co-op on the ground floor, with included parking. I'm not going to go through detail. That's why I have some very fine professionals. I do want to indicate that as far as we are concerned, this is a variance-free application. The only issues are what we call waivers or deviations in a redevelopment zone that Chris, our engineer, will discuss. There are not variances, there are parking and use of the roadway, which you'll hear from Mr. Roche. As I've indicated before, I have 3 witnesses. I ask that you listen, and please wait till the end and let counsel and or your ability to stand up and make comments. I do have to say this, I'm not a witness, and you may not care, but I like to say this, especially in the city of New Brunswick. I know the skyline of New Brunswick. I was born in Brunswick Hospital. I went to school in New Brunswick. I grew up in New Brunswick. I can tell you all about New Brunswick, every piece of New Brunswick. I saw changes in skyline over my lifetime, my age of which I will not have to indicate at this point in time. I'm proud of the city. I'm proud of what that board has done, what the mayor has done, and I think my client is going to make this city and the skyline even better. You may disagree, and that is certainly your right. So without any further ado, Chris, why don't you come up? Please state your name.
Sure, it's Christian Roach, R-O-C-H-E.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, Mr. Roach?
I do.
Can you state your qualifications, please?
Sure, I've been practicing land development engineering now in New Jersey for approximately 17 years. I have bachelor's degrees in civil engineering and business from Lehigh University, as well as a master's degree in civil engineering from North Carolina State. I've been in front of this board probably somewhere on the order of 30 to 60 times in the last decade.
All right, Mr. Roche, you are a licensed New Jersey engineer, is that correct?
That's correct.
And for how many, you're 17 years you indicated. Your license in full force and effect as of today, is that correct?
It is.
And you were engaged by the applicant, I'll be brief, you were engaged by the applicant to prepare preliminary and final site plan application plans consistent with the redevelopment zone, redevelopment requirements, and the land use requirements of the city, is that correct?
Correct.
And I just give you 3 questions, as you and I have discussed. I don't do a quick Q&A. You're going to describe for the board, number 1, existing conditions, number 2, the proposed project in as much detail as you think is appropriate, and 3, at the end of your testimony with Mr. Dominguez's and the chairman's approval, whether or not we can comply with all of the issues and comments of engineering and planning. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the microphone. I pass it on to you.
I apologize for the awkward microphone. If you can't hear me at all, please let me know throughout the presentation. So, would you like me to mark this exhibit?
Yeah, A1, please.
This will be A1, it's an existing site aerial. And Mr. Dominguez, I'm also going to mark A2 while I'm at it. A2 is just a rendered site plan.
Let me ask and let me project. So those 2 exhibits are copies of exhibits which this board has been provided with and its professional staff. Is that correct?
No, there are exhibits that are brought to the hearing this evening.
No. How do they differ from those sheets that are in the package?
There were separate exhibits. The rendered site plan is just a colored version of the site layout plan that was submitted as part of our site
That's
plan
my point.
application package.
The difference is it's a colorized version.
Correct, for illustrative purposes.
That was my point. Thank you very much.
So the project site,
Can you tell me what the final date is on those plans?
they both say November 2023. Sure. So the project site we're here to talk about this evening is identified as block 129, lots 3.01 and 3.02. Combined, those lots total approximately 0.82 acres. They're bound by New Street to the north, Livingston Avenue to the west, Moore Street, which is one way, to the south, the standard office space, and a church to the east. The site's presently occupied by the Elks Building and the George Street Co-op. Access to the site is provided via 2 access points off of Morris Street, and those access points provide ingress and egress to an existing surface parking lot, which contains approximately 45 parking stalls. As our attorney noted, both properties are within the New Brunswick Downtown Redevelopment Plan. So, moving to Exhibit A2. Exhibit A2 is a colored version of the site layout plan that was submitted as part of our site plan application package. And what the applicant is looking to construct on the property is a 23-story mixed-use building with ground floor retail, event space, structured parking, and residential above. The building is proposed to have a footprint of approximately 33,405 square feet. Of that, there will be 2,008 square feet of retail space on the ground floor for the George Street Co-op, 6,840 square feet for the Elks Lodge, along with structured parking and 407 residential units above. Site access to the structured parking is proposed off of Morris Street via a 24-foot wide site driveway. That site driveway will be separated by a curb median with two 11-foot lanes for separate access points for ingress and egress. From a parking perspective, the structured parking will provide a total of 355 parking stalls. Doing the math per the redevelopment plan with the EV parking credits, we'd be required to have 349 parking stalls, whereas 355 stalls are proposed, thus meeting the parking requirements. And we're also meeting the ADA parking requirements, whereas 8 ADA stalls are required. We're proposing 12 ADA stalls. Loading for the building is proposed at 2 locations. We are proposing to extend the existing loading zone on New Street in front of the Standard by approximately 20 feet. We anticipate that this loading zone would be used for UPS type deliveries, Amazon type deliveries. Typically, those vehicles park in a single location and serve multiple buildings. We anticipate that would be the intent of the New Street loading zone. We are proposing a second loading zone along Morris Street, which will be 8 feet wide by 80 feet long, to provide a loading area for the retail, trash, and move-in, move-out operations. In order to accommodate the proposed loading area on Morris Street, we are requesting with the city the removal of 3 metered parking stalls. And we understand that both the removal of those stalls and the loading zone on Morris Street are subject to city council approval. From a stormwater management perspective, the project does not propose to increase impervious coverage compared to existing conditions. As a result of that, we are not required to have any water quantity measures, detention, water quality, or groundwater recharge measures. We are proposing new roof drainage to accommodate the building, which will have connections both to Morris Street and New Street. With utilities, we will be under city sewer and city water, with connections to New Street and Morris Street as well, and we'll have electric and gas provided by PSE&G off of Morris Street. We are proposing 6 new street trees, 5 of which will be along Morris Street, 1 of which will be along New Street, and we're preserving the 3 existing street trees along Livingston Avenue. With that, we're also preserving the existing light fixtures along Livingston Avenue and adding 3 new light fixtures, which will match the fixture type on Livingston. It's all the PSE&G, New Haven Town fixtures, so we'll have a uniform look of light poles surrounding the development. Our attorney mentioned we do have 3 waivers we're seeking this evening. The first waiver is a waiver from the engineering design standards, and it deals with the width of the proposed site driveway on Morris Street, where typically around 30 feet is required. We're proposing 24 feet. 24 feet is a common dimension used for structured parking. The second waiver that we're requesting this evening is for the on-street loading areas, and that applies both to Morris Street and New Street, as opposed to having those loading areas on site. And then lastly, in conjunction with that, the third waiver is just for the width of the proposed loading zones. We're showing those loading zones as 8 feet wide, whereas typically the city engineering standards require 12 feet wide. And I'll note, as it relates to the Morris Street loading zone, if the city objected and required us to strike a 12-foot loading zone, we could certainly do so. That roadway is 24 feet wide. If we had to do a 12-foot loading zone, we'd still have a 12-foot travel lane, which is common for engineering standards. And then lastly, I did get comments from the city engineer and the city planner, and we have no objection to complying with the comments in those letters.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Roche is now available for questions from the board, and then I would move on to my next witness at 2 directions.
Okay, start. Are there any questions from board professionals? Engineering, otherwise? No?
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Roche indicated, we can comply with all of the professional requirements in the planning and the engineering reports, including the last report directed to Mr. Dominguez by Mr. Hajar, dated November 13, 2023.
Good. Are there any questions from board members? I oftentimes, I don't know who should receive these questions, but I'll just ask you, and if it's not appropriate. Right. If it's not appropriate for you to respond to this question, then we'll defer to somebody else. But I noticed that the Elks Club is going to be incorporated into this structure. What's the fate of the George Street Co-op?
The architect will talk in a lot more detail, but the George Street Co-op will also be relocated into this structure. It's got around 2,008 square feet footprint on the ground floor.
Okay, good. Thank you.
As to the deviations that were indicated, that is more for our traffic engineer who will follow the architect. I thank you. Stewart?
Hi, Stuart, state your name, spell your last name, please. Sure. My name is Stuart Johnson, last name Johnsson.
Mr. Johnson, you swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
And what are your professional qualifications, please?
Sure. So again, my name is Stuart Johnson. I'm a principal with Minnewaska Architects and Planners. I am a registered architect with the current New Jersey license. I have a bachelor's in architecture from Syracuse University. I've appeared before approximately over 30 to 35 municipalities across the state, qualified as an expert in architecture, as well as the Superior Court in Bergen County.
I ask you to be qualified as a professional architect.
Yeah, I approve of your qualifications. Please proceed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Stuart, and I just give you my questions, the same ones. You were engaged by the applicant to provide architectural services in connection with the elevations and design of the building, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yes I was. So Minnewaska was the architect of record associated with the application, and we oversaw the development of the conceptual drawings associated with the application.
All right, give us I'm going to sit down, give us a rundown of the elevations, construction material, floor plans, the use of where the Elks is going to be, and of course, where the co-op. Thank you. And just mark your exhibits as we put them up, to the extent they were not incorporated in the submission because of colorization.
So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Yeah,
Sure.
move over to your, that's it. Just try and project to the board and to the public.
Yeah, and use the mic, please.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with this great crowd. So again, Stuart Johnson with Minnewaska Architects. I have 3 exhibits here this evening. We have 3 illustrative perspective renderings of the proposed building at various vantage points. And my 4th exhibit is a flip chart of the architectural building plans, which we'll use to orient you to the building and walk around the building. So my first exhibit is Exhibit A3. It's an illustrative perspective view. It's a view looking south from Livingston Avenue. It depicts the proposed mixed-use building associated with the application. So as Mr. Roche had provided previous testimony to, the building is a new 23-story building with a rooftop penthouse and amenity area. It consists of 407 new rental apartment units. There's approximately 6,800 square feet of commercial event space that fronts on Livingston Avenue, and approximately 2,000 square feet of commercial retail space on Morris Street. The site is within a downtown redevelopment area within the city. It's an important site. It's an iconic site. The site essentially acts as a gateway to the downtown. The immediate adjacent uses are the Eldridge Hotel, the Blaustein School of Planning. Across the street certainly is the church use. Right behind us is another high-rise building, which is a student housing or student rental apartment building. And as seen here in the rendering, we can see some of the other developments that have occurred just down the street. So this building becomes an important building here that really creates a nice addition to the skyline and the streetscape of downtown New Brunswick. What we're doing here is really placemaking and creating new housing opportunities for the downtown of New Brunswick. So with that, I'm going to move to my second exhibit.
Mr. Solomon, did we want to mark this as a numbered exhibit?
I think we have it as A3.
Okay, thank you.
What's the date on those plans?
So Exhibit A3, the date is 11/13/2023.
Forgive me, Mr. Solomon, I get retentive in connection with number of exhibits.
So the next exhibit here is Exhibit A4. It's an illustrative perspective view. This is a view looking south from Livingston Avenue. The date on the exhibit is the same date, November 13th, 2023. So the project, as Mr. Roche had noted, 23 stories. This is a great view of the project. This is a view looking south from Livingston Avenue. It shows the new streetscape of the building, some of the new streetscape, some of the new landscaping that is being created. The project is comprised of a total of 407 residential apartment units. That consists of 79 studio units. There are 219 one-bedroom apartment units and 109 two-bedroom apartment units. It was noted in my prior testimony, as well as the engineers, but along Livingston Avenue here, on the ground floor, where we see the new commercial storefront windows, we have approximately 6,840 square feet of commercial event space. It is intended, ultimately, that the tenant and the use of that would be the Elks Lodge, which is the current user and occupier of the existing building, but it's commercial event space, which is a permitted use associated with the redevelopment plan. Around the corner is Morris Street, and on Morris Street, we are providing 2,008 square feet of commercial retail space on the ground floor. Again, that is a permitted use associated with the application, and I believe Mr. Roche had noted that there are no bulk variances or deviations that are being proposed here as part of this application. So it's a by right application other than the few deviations associated with the loading areas for the project. But on Morris Street, we have about 2,008 square feet of commercial retail space. Again, the intended use is the co-op, who is there today, the George Street Co-op, and that's a little greater than the existing square footage that they have today. Their hours of operation, no differently than the Elks' use of the commercial event space, would be the similar or same to the existing users today. So the Elks Lodge and the George Street Co-op, their hours of operation, number of employees, the way that those halls or spaces would be used would be the same as the way they're currently being used today. The project does provide for 355 structured parking spaces internal to the building. These structured parking spaces occur on levels 1 through 6 of the building. They are screened by residential apartment units as they front on Livingston Avenue, which screen and activates the front of the building. And then along Morris Street, we've designed the building to be articulated to mimic the scale and proportion of the residential windows, again, to generally screen that parking as viewed from around the building. The building also provides for 102 bicycle parking spaces for all the residential units of the building. We also have some public bicycle racks or rings that are within the sidewalk for public use that are spread around the building. Internal to the building here for the new residents of this community, we have great amenities for residents. We have approximately 8,000 square feet of indoor residential amenity space, which consists of a new boutique hotel style lobby here at the entrance of the building. So the primary residential entry is located at the intersection of New Street and Livingston. It provides for a double height lobby space here that provides for ceilings of approximately 26 feet to really create a grand sense of arrival. It's appropriate in scale and position to the Eldridge Hotel immediately across the street. The ground floor of the building is articulated with new elegant storefront windows which activate the streetscape and the pedestrian realm of the proposed project. In terms of the massing of the building, it was important to contextually look at the fabric of this area and the surrounding architecture. So it was important to us that we used a weighted material which consists of masonry brick veneer. So the first 6 levels of the building are a dark gray masonry brick veneer. That's a hand-laid brick, which provides a human scale to the architecture and we believe helps to weight the building and ground the building. Above the 6th floor, we're actually creating a step back So we have a 5-foot step back that occurs on Livingston Avenue, which wraps the corner on Morris Street. Again, that helps to break down the scale of the building. The view we have here, as you can see, is essentially a drone shot that is almost 60, about 80 feet up in the air. It's sort of eye level with the 8th floor of the building. But we have another view here at the streetscape. If you were walking around the building on Livingston, New, or Morris, you really read that 6-story massing with that sub-cornice line, again, breaking down the scale of the building, with the upper tower portion being a lighter design. When I say lighter, predominantly we have floor-to-ceiling windows for the residential apartment units. So you can see large windows there, allowing for light and air for the residential units, offering commanding views of the downtown New Brunswick skyline. The upper stories of the building, the exterior cladding consists of composite metal panel. We have 4 different colors we're using as accent. We have this lighter, sort of whitish silver gray color being used, and then our second field color of the darker shark skin gray. We've also designed the corners of the building to have iconic tower reading elements. So you can see the accent being used here in the orange color, which helps to create a frame element there, creates a sense of interest and play on the corner. We're also using a little bit more glass on the corners of the building, again, to create architectural interest and to offer some contemporary detailing that, again, works well with the surrounding context and the other newer developments within the downtown. So with that, I'm going to introduce my next exhibit, which will be Exhibit A5, and this is dated the same date, 11/13/2023. And this is an illustrative perspective view. This is a view looking south from Livingston Avenue. So this is a streetscape view. This is as if you were standing at the intersection of New Street and Livingston in front of the Blaustein School of Planning. In the background here, we have the existing high-rise, which is the standard student housing building, and then the proposed mixed-use building. So a new 23-story building, as noted. Right in the foreground here, we see the 2-story lobby, which creates a sense of arrival, a sense of place that activates that corner. Again, we see the new storefront windows here activating the streetscape, arguably creating a more pedestrian-friendly environment along that corridor than what might be there today. Again, meeting the goals and principles of the redevelopment plan, and again, activating the downtown. Again, here we see the weighted base of the building, the masonry brick veneer, with the well-proportioned brick piers that march down Livingston Avenue. And then that sub-cornice that I was making reference to, where we create a 5-foot step back to create some relief on that facade. And you see that some of the subtle play in regards to the upper building, the materials and the colors being used on the project. So with that, I'm going to move to the building plans. I'm happy to mark this as an exhibit. This is a flip chart. It's a colorized version. Actually, what we did submit was color, so it's the same thing that we submitted. I can mark each sheet, or
I would suggest that we mark the flip chart as A6, subject to Mr. Solomon, and each sheet would be A61, A62, A63.
Sure.
Just so you can identify them. Mr. Solomon, does that work for you?
Sure. So great. So this is Exhibit A6. Again, this is a flip chart of the architectural building plans that were filed as part of the application. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to orient you to the layout of the building. I think Mr. Roche did. Yes.
Can you move that a little bit?
This way.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
way. I think the board can see it, but I want the audience to see it. Is that good, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, thank you.
So Mr. Roche did a great job of orienting everyone around the site. The site has frontages on 3 streets. It has frontage on New Street, frontage on Livingston Avenue, and frontage on Morris Street. It abuts the adjacent standard student housing building, which is a high-rise structure, and our building here is nestled behind that. The primary residential lobby is pochade in pink here, where we see the 2-story lobby space. There's a small leasing management office that's on site, mail and parcel spaces that you would typically find in a building like this. And then again, the 6,800 square feet of commercial event space, which fronts on Livingston Avenue, which is proposed to be the Elks Lodge. We do show an illustrative plan here that's just that. It's an illustrative layout of how the interior of that space may be. But again, that just gives a sense of spatial planning within that space. The area portrayed in lighter gray is the internal structured parking garage. There are 7 levels of that parking garage. The site does slope here from north to south, so the site is almost 5 to 7 stories, or I'm sorry, 5 to 7 feet higher at the intersection here of New and Livingston Avenue versus the entrance to the parking garage or where the commercial retail space is. But the vehicular ingress and egress access to the parking garage is here off of Morris Street. We have a gated entry there. And we're providing adequate parking that complies with the redevelopment plan as well as the required uses associated with the plan and the application. The 2,008 square feet of commercial retail space, which is intended for the George Street Co-op, is located here with frontage on Morris Street. Again, it would have storefront windows and doors, providing immediate access to that street. Its hours of operation, the type of loading would be the same or similar to the way it currently operates today. The other uses on the ground floor are typical uses, back of house utility uses. So we have our transformer and utility room here, the electrical connections on the ground floor, and the internal trash and storage. So the upper residential floors of the building, there are internal trash chutes, and all the trash and recycling is stored internal to the building. This building is professionally managed, and residential refuse, trash, and recycling pickup would be scheduled by a private hauler 2 to 3 times a week. There's always a representative, a building porter on site who would be managing that operation. The other type of loading really for this type of building is residential move-ins, which are SU-30 size vehicles, a 26, 28 foot haul, a 26 to 28 foot long U-Haul truck, again, which would stage within the loading zone that was proposed along Morris Street. That's a scheduled and coordinated event. There's only one move-in occurring at any given time. There's always building management that's on site that's managing that process. And we have a dedicated move-in elevator here adjacent off a secure vestibule that's on Morris Street. So if I flip this, it will mark this exhibit A6-1. This is the second floor of the building, so we're just moving vertically in the building. So for the first 6 floors of the building, where we have the parking garage located, again, we're lining that parking with residential units along the Livingston Street frontage, which helps to activate that. We see the open to below space here where we have that double height lobby space, which creates a really dynamic and attractive entrance to the building. On the second floor, we also have the secure bicycle spaces for the proposed building. I believe Mr. Roche had indicated, but of the 355 parking spaces, 62 of those will be level 2 EV parking spaces. That complies with the redevelopment plan as well as the state's new model EV ordinance. Then moving upwards in the building, we'll mark this exhibit A6-2. And this is the 7th floor of the building. So this is the first level of the building above the parking garage level. This is the first full residential level of the building, which is also our primary residential amenity level. So above the parking garage, this is smart planning here to activate the rooftop of the parking garage. We created an open air courtyard, and the residential building above the parking levels is essentially a U-shaped building. It's double loaded on 2 frontages, meaning that we have residential units on both sides of the corridor. And we'll see here in a minute that this leg of the building is single loaded, which means we only have residential units on one side of the corridor. But this is the level where we create a 5-foot step back that occurs along the frontage at Livingston Avenue, and also turns the corner on Moore Street to create some relief on the building architecture. Again, as noted, we have approximately 6,000 square feet of residential indoor amenity space on this level here, consisting of a new club room, a dedicated co-working zone for residents of this community, a small sports simulator, as well as a state-of-the-art fitness center with cardio, weights, and yoga type uses, All those spaces have direct access out to the courtyard with storefront windows for light. That open air courtyard is approximately 70 feet in width and about 100 feet in length. It's 78 feet wide and 103 feet here in length, which allows for adequate light and air, right, for that outdoor area. But that provides for areas for residents of this new community to congregate and gather, outdoor dining opportunities. There is a small resort-style pool that's being proposed there with the sun shelf for seasonal use. So we're really excited about that. Again, smart use of activating the rooftop of the garage. The upper portions of the building generally stack, so all the residential apartment units generally stack as we move vertically in the building. And this exhibit will be A6-3, right? Which is the 24th level of the building, or the penthouse level. It's a 23-story building that also has a penthouse level. We're activating the rooftop of the building, which is typical in a high-rise building of this nature. So we are bringing four of the elevators up here, as well as the fifth oversized move-in elevator. And at that 24th level, or rooftop of the building, we have an indoor amenity space, which is approximately 3,500 square feet. You would typically find a private event space there for resident-hosted events that was managed by building management. There may be a small space in that area that could be rented out by residents of the building for a small gathering. And then that space would have storefront windows that provide access, both light and actual access, sort of indoor-outdoor connectivity between the passive and active recreation areas associated at this upper rooftop deck. So again, we're illustratively showing here some chaise lounge seating, opportunities again for dining at the rooftop level of the building. We have two small areas here. So there's this area here, which fronts on Livingston Avenue, and then a smaller rooftop area over here, which fronts on Morris Street. The building, again, was designed to break down the scale and mass of the building. So you noticed, again, as we move vertically in the building, there was another step here that occurred at the 11th floor of the building, which helps to allow for more light and air into that courtyard space. I had noted that we have about 8,000 square feet of indoor amenity space, but if we combine the courtyard level use as well as the rooftop use, we have about 11,600 square feet of outdoor passive and active recreation space, again, which is kudos to the developer and the applicant for being willing to provide that, but really it's best in class in terms of lifestyle amenities offered to residents of this community. So lastly, I guess I just wanted to note, we are proposing a few signs for the building. The signs are fully compliant. We're not seeking any waivers or variances associated with those signs. I will recall Exhibit A4. So we are proposing a few canopy signs. So we are proposing a residential canopy sign, which are
you put your finger, that's where the foyer is that correct?
Well, so that's a architectural slung canopy, which provides protection from the weather and the elements over the primary residential entrance. And atop that canopy, we have individual channel cut letters that are affixed to the edge of the canopy. They are aluminum letters that would be fixed to the edge of the canopy. They are LED halo backlit, which provides a subtle glow in the evening hours that helps to create a sense of place, helps to create wayfinding signage for the proposed use. So similarly for the proposed event space, which ultimately is being proposed to be the Elks Lodge, we are proposing a similar sign. So there would be a new architectural slung canopy over its entrance, again, helping to create a sense of place, also wayfinding where the primary entrance of that space is. And similar to the existing canopy that's on the Elks Lodge today, it would have an opportunity to have signage affixed to its canopy as well. We have two small garage signs which are proposed, which are really wayfinding signs that say parking entrance and exit. They again are individual channel cut letters which are pin mounted to the facade above the entrances to the garage. And then lastly, we are proposing a similar canopy sign at the proposed retail use on Morris Street. So for the George Street Co-op, if they're the final tenant of that space, again, there would be individual channel cut letters affixed at the top of the canopy identifying its use. And lastly, just wanted to add as well, very smartly planned building. We're very proud of the architecture. Again, we think we're creating a sense of place here. We think we're activating the skyline within the downtown of New Brunswick that's compliant with the goals and objectives of the redevelopment plan. We also believe that we're activating the streetscape, again, meeting the goals and objectives of the downtown redevelopment plan area. The building, again, is smartly designed, that was thoughtful in regards to the massing of the building, the use of building materials. And also, just to highlight here a few of the green design elements, all of the appliances in the apartment units would be Energy Star appliances. All of the lighting throughout the project would be Energy Star lighting in the apartment units and in many of the common areas of the building. The windows themselves are thermal windows, which provide low EV coating. The water fixtures used throughout the apartments are low flow water fixtures, all smart features, programmable thermostats in the apartment units, and we made reference to the 62 EV parking spaces within the parking garage. So again, a very smartly planned project. So with that concludes my testimony. Happy to answer any questions the board may have or anything.
Mr. Chairman, any questions for Mr. Go ahead.
I'll just let, for the record, similar to Mr. Roche, we did review the planning report as well as the engineering report. I believe we provided a bulleted response. We intend to comply with all the comments we received. We also received, during the TRC process, we received a one-page letter that had comments from the construction subcode official and or the fire chief, and we intend to comply with those comments we received in regards to life safety and building code. So the project will be fully compliant with the NJIBC 2021 version and certainly comply with any local codes here within the city.
Thank you. Any questions from board professionals? Board members, have any questions? Am I correct that there's no affordable housing associated with this?
There's no affordable housing associated with this application, yes.
Dan? I think this microphone is picking up everything. Please state your name for the record.
Certainly, Dan Desario, last name is D-I-S-A-R-I-O.
Mr. Desario, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I did.
On whom you're present employed, Mr. Desario?
Langen Engineering.
What capacity?
I'm a principal with the firm.
And do you have a specialty?
Yes, traffic engineering.
And for how long have you been a traffic engineer?
Over 30 years.
And do you have, is your license in full force and effect?
Yes, it is.
And have you appeared before 30, 40, 50 or more boards in the state of New Jersey?
It's more like 300 or 400.
Well, I'm trying to, your age, you know. You've been
I'm
qualified.
not as old as you, Jim, but
That's
we
okay.
won't go there.
You go back. Mr. Chairman, I ask you to be qualified as a traffic engineer.
We accept your qualifications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to get out of your way.
Certainly.
You know what the questions are.
As the board is aware, we've provided a traffic study dated June 22nd, 2023 as part of the site plan submission to you for this project. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights of that report, but I would be happy to answer any questions in terms of any details of that report. As the board is aware and the public has heard, the proposals for 407 residential units plus some ground floor retail, which is envisioned for the George Street Food Co-op to occupy, as well as some event space, which will be the Elks Club. To identify how much traffic this proposed project would generate, we relied on published trip rates by the Institute of Transportation Engineers in their publication, Trip Generation Manual, which is in its 11th edition. Based on those published trip rates in round numbers, we would anticipate during a single hour between 7 and 9 in the morning, about 35 vehicles would come in, 95 vehicles would exit for a total two-way traffic generation of 130 trips. In the evening, a single hour between 4 and 6 p.m. 55 vehicles would come in, 35 vehicles would exit, for a total two-way traffic generation of 90 trips. As the board and the public is aware, this site is well situated in terms of being in the middle of 4 intersections. You have George Street on the east side, you have Livingston Avenue on the west side, you have Morris Street on the south side, you have New Street on the north side. If you look at how traffic would go to and from the proposed access along Morris Street, the amount of traffic during those peak hours, single hour in the morning, single hour in the evening, again between 7 and 9 and 4 to 6, the amount of additional traffic attributed to this proposed development would equate to about 1 or less additional vehicles traversing those 4 intersections that surround the site during peak hours. I would respectfully submit to the board as well as the public that level of traffic increase at those 4 intersections, you would not be able to perceive a noticeable difference in traffic operations. In other words, if you went out there today, like I have, and you observed traffic operations at those 4 intersections, and if the board was inclined to approve this development and it was constructed as proposed, you would not be able to notice a difference in traffic operations at those 4 surrounding intersections because of this project. Our analysis bears that conclusion out. All the intersections currently operate efficiently with good levels of service, as the board's probably aware, maybe some of the public are aware as well. Traffic operations are qualitatively assessed in giving a level of service grade, A through F. Most of the intersections that surround the site operate with B's and C's levels of service, which are indicative of very well functioning intersections, and they certainly will continue to operate at those levels with this proposed development. In terms of access, you heard from both the site engineer as well as the architect, one proposed access point along Morris Street. As the board is aware, and the public may be aware as well, there are currently 2 driveways along Morris Street today. As part of this proposed project, those 2 curb cuts will be consolidated into a single curb cut. So 1 driveway serving the parking garage that's part of this project. Consolidating 2 curb cuts into 1, from a safety perspective as it relates to traffic operations along Morris Street, that is a benefit to the motoring public. As part of this application, as the board heard from the site engineer, we are proposing to remove 3 on-street parking spaces. The reason we are along Morris Street, the reason why we are doing that is twofold. One is we're creating a loading zone on the north side, so along the north curb line of Morris Street, to serve this project. And also, where the curb cut is going to be serving this development and the parking garage, removing that on-street parking will allow vehicles to be able to turn into and out of that driveway efficiently by removing that on-street parking. You heard there's 355 parking spaces that are proposed for this development based on published parking demand information, again by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. That parking supply is more than sufficient to accommodate the demands that we anticipate for the 407 residential units. As it relates to waivers, there were 3. The first was driveway width, whereas the city requirements are at least a 30-foot wide curb cut for residential driveways, whereas we are proposing a 24-foot wide driveway. Respectfully, I submit to the board, a narrower driveway is better in this context because a narrower driveway is less of an opening that anyone that's walking along Morris Street would have to negotiate when they come across the opening to the parking garage. And certainly 24-foot width is more than adequate to accommodate two-way flow and is certainly in keeping with the largely residential nature of the proposed development. We are proposing on-street loading, as you heard from the site engineer. We're extending the existing loading zone on New Street. It currently serves the standard, which is the building adjacent, contiguous now to what we are proposing. And we're simply extending that loading zone because, as you heard from the architect, The main residential access or the premier building entry is at the corner of New and Livingston. So having that extended loading zone will be perfect for residents when they receive deliveries such as Amazon deliveries. The Amazon vehicle will be able to park on New Street and access through the front door of the main entrance of the residential portion of the building. In terms of the loading width, it's 8 foot wide. That is a function of the width of Morris Street. We could make it wider, but in my opinion, respectfully, an 8 foot wide loading zone along Morris Street is perfectly appropriate. And those are the three items that we are seeking waivers from, and in my opinion, the board can grant those waivers without creating any detriment to the motoring public. And with that, I conclude my testimony.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that concludes my testimony of Mr. Desario.
Any questions? No? Any questions from the board? Is the traffic configuration for any of these streets being changed? For example, Morris Ave is one way?
Yes,
It's gonna stay that way.
correct.
And Morris Ave terminates at George Street, correct?
No, it continues.
But, oh, it continues, but
Yes.
that block ends at George Street, right? If you
Morris,
take Morris Avenue, the next intersection is George Street, isn't it? Yeah. And
Morris-
is
If you
there a
come-
light at that intersection?
at Morris and George,
Yes.
yes. There's 4 intersections that surround the site, and 3 of them are signalized. The only one that's not signalized is Morris Street and Livingston Avenue, which is stop control, with Morris being one way from Livingston towards George's.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you one more question. There has been an issue of questions that may come up as soon as I'm done. In your experience, there will always be access provided by the developer on Morris Street during and after construction, am I correct?
Yes, the applicant's going to be obligated to make sure and ensure that access is provided to all the other properties along Morris Street during the construction of this project. Chris, the site engineer, and myself have handled dozens of projects throughout the city. This is not unique to this project, and we will work with the city professionals to come up with, and I think it was one of the requests, a logistics plan to maintain access to the affected properties during construction.
Thank you. That's all I have on this one. And Mr. Chairman, all my witnesses are here. They're all available for questions from the board or the public. No one's leaving.
Okay, I suspect you're gonna get a few.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I guess now we can proceed with public comment associated with this. And I think that we had indicated that you could ask questions now specific to the.
And the public can likewise question
Yeah,
as well, right?
yes, but specific to this project, not general questions, just this proposed project.
Can I ask counsel just to make sure we're organized? Because I don't want to have to, if he will tell, when he asks his questions, if he could direct them to whichever witness he believes has a response.
Right.
As opposed to a general. I'm sure he will, and I reserve the right to move it if necessary.
All right, I'll also point out that, you know, in the interest of like, you know, sleeping and going to work tomorrow, we do limit the amount of time associated with the question. If everyone here asked 5 minutes of questions, we'd be here for a while. So
Well-
we're gonna try and kind of, you know, put a limit on how much time every person can provide comment, but I'm gonna, you know, you're going first here, since.
Not
you
fair at
requested.
all. Keep it at 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to ask these questions of Mr. Johnson first.
Excuse me, I would ask that the objector similarly use the microphone.
Sure. Which one?
Oh, I see. Okay, good. Is that working?
Hello?
Yeah, good.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, you testified on direct examination that there would be 6,800 square event space and 2,000 square feet of retail space. Is that right?
Correct. 6,840 square feet of commercial event space and 2,008 square feet of commercial retail space.
And the larger space, that is in connection with the Elks, is that correct? Their banquet hall?
I believe that the Elks is the intended user of that space, the final tenant of that space. The applicant's attorney can speak more to those discussions, but.
Okay, other than what you've testified to, will there be any other retail proposed for this location?
No.
You would testify that in terms of the deliveries and the, kind of like the operations issues, that they would be the same as they are right now. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Well, again, as to, it can't be the same because now you have a multi-use residential.
what he said.
Talking about the retail,
I'm talking, yes, specifically, I'm still talking about the retail, that's what he testified.
Yeah. So the application before you, being considered before the board this evening, has 6,800 square feet plus or minus of event space and 2,000 square feet, 2,008 square feet of commercial retail space. The intended users of those space are the same tenants that occupy those spaces today. So the intended tenant for the 2,000 square foot space is the George Street Co-op. The intended end user and tenant for the event space is the Elks chapter, the Elks Club, that is here within New Brunswick. So their hours of operation, I can't speak to it directly. I have a general understanding of their hours of operation, but I would expect that they would load, they would operate, they would use those spaces in a similar manner to the way they currently use their spaces today.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at. In other words, you didn't speak to anybody in connection at the Rutgers Co-op or with the Elks Club that, their deliveries would be the same, the number of their employees would be the same, what the hours of operation were going to be. You didn't have those conversations, did you, with any representative of those two entities?
I did not personally, but I believe the applicant did, yes.
But you did not?
I'm the architect, so I'm not providing testimony in regards to their hours of use, but my understanding is that the applicant has spoken to those intended users and has spoken to them in regards to their types of use and hours of operation.
But you don't know what the answers were to those questions?
he has to answer it. He said it will be the same as it is at the present time.
What's the question?
I wanted to know if you know whether or not, or if that person who you indicated spoke to those two concerns told you what the operations of the respective businesses were.
For which use?
Either.
So we were made aware that the Elks use meets 2 times a month. They typically have evening meetings that begin at 7:30. They typically have a board meeting that occurs 1 time a month. Again, that's an evening meeting. They have open hours that their use or club is open to its members. They also often have, unfortunately, have wakes that occur, and they host that there, and sometimes that's 1 or 2 times a month. Again, that's their use. They often rent out their space, and typically that would be a Saturday evening. Our understanding, typically on average, it's about 60 to 75 people that would use or occupy that space. Any use in that space would have to comply with local code here within the city of New Brunswick. Requisite occupancy or types of use. would have to comply with local code. In terms of the co-op, my understanding is that their hours of operations would be the same hours that they currently operate.
With respect to the Elks and the banquet room, were you asked to develop a certain size of that banquet hall?
So we've done, I believe I showed an exhibit that had an illustrative layout. That's space planning. So it's space planning of showing potential use, but it's space planning of just that.
Did you, were you asked to be able to fit a certain number of tables with a certain number of people that were sitting at those tables?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we show an illustrative plan. The plan has 10 tables. I think they showed 10 tables of 14. So certainly that would be 140 people. However, we were told typically the way that they currently use their space is that when they rent it out, they're renting it out to parties of 60 or 75 people. That space, no differently than any other space, would be relegated to the occupancy and the type of use that it was.
And sir, you designed the parking ramps, is that correct?
We did.
And you said there's 7 levels?
There are 7 levels of parking.
Okay. And regarding the 7 levels, is it your testimony that you've maxed out the number of parking spaces you can put on those 7 levels?
We have. The layout that we're showing is the max yield in terms of parking spaces that we can yield in the layout that is shown, yes.
Okay, so is it, did you consider, as part of your design, perhaps adding an 8th level, or perhaps a 9th level?
We did not.
And why was that, sir?
So twofold. One is typically parking garages, and it's the same with other municipal parking garages found within the downtown. Any higher than 7 stories, people begin to get disoriented. I parked in the adjacent deck here tonight, and as you go up that ramp, typically you don't find parking garages taller than 7 stories just because of the navigation, the way people use those garages. So we try not to do that. The second reason we didn't was that we met the requisite parking. I believe testimony was given by the traffic engineer in regards to the proposed use and the adequacy of the parking based on the unit mix and the use that we have, as well as the adequacy of that parking in regards to the redevelopment plan.
Mr. Johnson, you testified that there, with respect to the 407 units, that there were 79 studios, correct?
Correct.
And 219 one-bedrooms?
There are 219 one-bedrooms, yes.
And 130, is it 9 two-bedrooms?
109 two-bedroom apartment units.
I'm sorry, 109
Right.
two-bedrooms.
Which is a total of 407 units.
Okay. With respect to the 79, what is the studio apartments? What is the occupant load for the studios? How many people can reside in the studio?
Well, the studio is a 1-bedroom. It's a single-bedroom apartment unit, so it's the same as a 1-bedroom. So typically, we see 1 or 2 people. And again, that that's governed by the building code. And
no, I understand, but theoretically, you could have a married couple living in a studio.
Sure.
And likewise, with the 1-bedrooms, the 219 1-bedrooms, you could have a married couple living in those as well, correct?
You could have 2 people residing in that, yes.
Right. And with respect to the 109, well, that's how many people? What's the occupant load on the 2 bedrooms?
Well, they're 2-bedroom apartment units, so there's a bedroom in each apartment. I'd have to defer. I'm not aware of any. I would anticipate max 4 people. There are 2 people per bedroom. But again, that's governed by a city code. There's city code and ordinance, right?
Okay. And it's possible that the married couple could have 2 cars, one for each person, correct?
I'm really not the person to answer that question. I think our traffic engineer is better suited. But again, I think testimony was given that based on the unit mix we're given and actual data, the parking ratio is appropriate.
Okay, I believe that's all the questions I have for Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, how about, let me try, Mr., is it DeSarno?
Desario.
Desario, I'm sorry.
Dan?
Mr. Desario, I believe you testified that there were going to be two loading zones that were both off-site. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the first one, I believe that the plans that are on the website showed two loading zones on Morris. So your testimony is that changed?
No, there's one loading zone on Morris.
Okay.
That's 8 by 80 feet. And there's an extension of an existing loading zone on New Street by 20 feet.
Okay, so there is not two loading zones on Morris Street?
Correct.
Okay, but the loading zone on Morris Street is now 80 feet.
Yes.
So that loading zone could accommodate a box truck, correct?
Yes.
And it could also accommodate a WB 62
Yes.
and a WB 67.
Yes.
And
Just for your information, though, 67s aren't allowed in our state.
I'm sorry.
67s are not allowed in our state.
Okay, I've seen a couple.
No, you haven't.
Well, okay. So, anyway, so, and you're asking for, the nomenclature here, I have a question with, but I'll take that up with the next witness. You're asking for a waiver on the width.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that a WB 62 is approximately 8.5 feet wide?
Yes.
So the loading zone you're proposing would not be wide enough. It's too wide to fit in that space, isn't that right?
In the stripe space itself, yes, it's plenty. The road width itself is plenty wide to accommodate a tractor trailer in that loading.
And you said that, I believe the testimony was that the road was 24 feet wide?
The driveway that's proposed to the parking garage is 24 foot wide.
Okay, but did you measure the width of Morris Street?
It's also 24 feet.
It is also 24 feet?
Yes.
Okay. Do people park, in your studies, did you notice if people park on both sides of Morris Street from time to time?
From time to time, some illegal parking may occur on the north side. I didn't observe that, but I wouldn't say that does not occur.
Okay. And the typical width of an automobile, would you say is what, about 5.8 feet?
Approximately.
Approximately? Okay. And so if you've got people parked on both sides of the road and someone's trying to navigate down Morris, it's going to get pretty tight. Wouldn't that tractor trailer have a pretty tight time getting down Morris?
We're removing 3 on-street parking spaces along the length of the loading dock for that reason.
Right, and instead of 240s, you're having an 80, which the biggest tractor trailer allowable in the state can park or unload it. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Desario, the 407 residential units, you're providing 355 parking spaces. Did you do a parking study to determine whether or not that was sufficient?
I didn't do a parking study per se, but I looked at published parking information that all traffic engineers use to identify peak parking demands for various land uses. And I conservatively assumed every unit was 2 bedrooms, but as you've heard from the architect, that's not the case. but based on the assumption that all units are two-bedroom units, the published data would identify the max average peak parking demand for 407 units as 305 vehicles.
And what happens if both persons that live in the unit have cars?
Some units may have two people having cars, and some units may have two people having no cars.
Well,
All I can tell you is the public.
Have you consulted with the master plan of this town?
I have not.
You have not, okay. That's fine, I'll take that up with another witness.
Okay.
Did you consult with anybody from the Elks or the co-op on deliveries or hours of operation?
I did.
Anything like that? Okay. And is it, when you're unloading a truck, sometimes they get unloaded from the side of the vehicle and not the back?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So then the unloading then would be taking place, essentially in the street outside of the loading zone.
Depends on the truck.
Well, let's take the case of the WB 62. Wouldn't that be the case?
Oh, they're gonna be loaded from the back.
What about a box truck? It's from the back also?
Most often, yes.
Okay. What trucks load from the side?
Small vans.
Are there any shared parking arrangements in connection with this use?
Not to my understanding, no.
Now, you testified as to your level of service on a number of the four intersections that surround the site. Isn't it true that the Morris and George Street left-hand turn is not an A or a B, in fact it's an E, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any reason why you didn't mention that on your direct examination?
I said overall, the intersections operate are B's to C's.
And you, in your report, you indicated that the level of delay for that left-hand turn in a no-build condition was 61.7 seconds. Is that right?
I'll take your word for it without looking.
And then in the build condition, with theoretically an additional 355 cars that could be out and about, that number didn't change. It remained the same at 61.7. Why is that?
Well, your theoretical 300-something cars is incorrect. In that specific movement, I believe you're referring to the evening peak hour. And we're adding, I believe, 11 vehicles to that specific movement. It's about one vehicle every 5 minutes. Would not materially change, if at all, the level of service or delay for them.
Did you do any parking counts for the parking ramp at the towards the end of Morris Street?
No, sir.
Did you notice any stacking of vehicles when you did your counts last March?
No, sir.
And I mean by and I'm referring specifically to Morris Avenue.
Morris Street.
Morris Street, excuse me, going back towards Livingston, and also on George Street coming back from New Street. You didn't notice any stacking at either of those intersections during the peak hours?
So you confused me because you said Morris Street towards Livingston Avenue.
Right.
Our section of Morris Street is one way from Livingston to George's.
That's right. I'm asking you if there is if were cars stacking at the light on Morris going back towards
George Street.
no Livingston, towards Livingston, up the street, up towards the cemetery.
Backing up.
Were they backed up? Were they queuing?
Because of the light at George's?
That's correct.
There is queuing each signal cycle, but the queue's always cleared.
Okay. And what about at George Street? Is your testimony that queue, that clears as well?
Along George Street?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you observe vehicles that were trying to make any turn at Moore, coming out of Moore Street and making a left through or left onto George Street? Did you notice any vehicles having difficulty doing that?
No.
Did you notice whether or not there were any garbage structures in the so-called left-hand lane of Moore Street in order to make that, in the way of individuals who want to make that left-hand turn?
At any time?
Yes, but when he made his observations.
No.
Okay.
When you were observing the traffic conditions on the 28th of March of this year, you're aware that there's a Catholic church, correct, that is along Morris Street, that also has a separate access from New Street, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know how many families are members of that church?
No.
Do you know how many children are involved in the catechism program?
I know no details with regards to that church.
So you didn't study that as part of this study?
Specifically, no.
Why did you put a driveway on Livingston and not Morse?
Good access management dictates you should always seek to locate a residential driveway along the lower class road. And that's exactly what we do.
To your knowledge, does the ITE Trip Generation Manual, 11th edition, contain a land use for banquet halls?
Yes, I believe it does.
It does. And that's separate from restaurants?
Yes.
And you did not employ that portion of the ITE for banquet halls as part of your analysis for this study, correct?
Correct.
It's a little hard to hear you.
I'm trying, I'm sorry.
You guys are hearing me okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to hold it really close.
So you studied for one day only, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that standard in the industry?
Yes.
Have you ever done a traffic study where you studied more than one day?
For retail uses, we'll typically study a Friday and a Saturday because of the retail activity is high on Saturday.
And there's retail involved in this application, is there not?
Yes, but it's existing on the site today. And this is not a retail project, it's a residential project that happens to have some ground floor retail.
Did you do a gap study for the intersection of Morris Street and George Street?
That's a intersection that's controlled by a traffic signal. Gap study is not appropriate.
Okay. And did you do a queue study?
We didn't observe queues. There are calculated queues in our analysis, but no, we didn't go and quantify queuing.
Will pedestrian trips increase in built condition?
To an extent, yes, I believe they would.
Be new residents, new employees, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how much?
I do.
Did you observe that the 7-Eleven, which is on the corner, has no parking?
I did not.
So the people basically just park wherever they want?
Objection, question. Anyone can park wherever they want, they don't mind getting a ticket. It's not a proper question.
Sure. Did you observe parking authority cars parked in the left-hand lane
No.
on Moore Street? No?
No, sir.
That's all the questions I have. Mr. Fiscal.
Mr. Roach next?
Yes. Mr. Roche, in your qualifications, did you also testify that you were testifying as a planner as well?
No, I'm not a planner, I'm not a licensed planner.
Then, sir, can you, what do you base your opinion on the 3 waivers you're asking for that are in fact waivers and not variances?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Solomon. Our traffic engineer testified.
He's not paying attention. I'm sorry.
Number one, our traffic engineer discussed the waivers, number one. Number two, as a matter of law, this is a redevelopment zone, and these would be waivers with deviations, not variances. And they were described by both Mr. Roche and Mr. DeSerio. But I think Mr. DeSerio testified as the fact they did not have an impact upon the use.
And I would respond to that by saying that the redevelopment plan is also amended to the zoning ordinance. And as such, if there is a provision of the zoning ordinance, which clearly the loading zone is, that is not it's not a waiver, it's a variance. And there is appellate division case law, which I can supply the board with. I'll move on. Mr. Roche, when you were designing this site, did you happen to look at the redevelopment map that was online with the town?
I looked at the redevelopment plan for the site. I'm not sure what map you're specifically referring to.
Well, I'm referring to the site, the map that was on the site. Did you look at any redevelopment maps that the public had access to? What map did you look at?
I looked at the provided redevelopment plan.
In your application, You indicated that you did not do a phase one. Did you ask for a waiver for that?
I believe we did. Typically, we don't provide phase one for site plan applications.
Did you do any environmental studies to justify the request for that waiver?
I did not personally do any environmental studies relative to
Did
phase
Langen,
one.
anybody at Langen do those studies?
No.
On page 2 of 3 of your technical memo to Mr. Dominguez dated June 22nd of this year regarding recycling, you had indicated you anticipate multiple two cubic dumpsters will be utilized. How many?
It will be on the order of probably 5 or so. I will note that trash and recycling will be handled by a private hauler, and we have the ability to determine the frequency of those pickups.
And where will those be, in a parking room? Or next to the parking room?
There's a separate trash room internal to the building, and then those will be brought to the street on pickup days.
You indicated in your environmental impact statement that the soils listed were suitable to support the project. Are there other soil groups that are more suitable?
I'm not sure I specifically understand the question. If it's a geotechnical
Yeah.
related question, sure, we encounter all types of different soil groups in New Brunswick, and we just change our design accordingly based on what soil groups we encounter. So for example, we're also the engineer on the standard next door. That building had a foundation system consisting of caissons. We go up the road, sometimes we just do shallow foundations.
You also indicated you did field investigations.
Could you keep your voice up? I'm sorry.
Sure. I said, the question was, you also indicated that you did field investigations. What were those findings on the field investigations?
The field investigations were a geotechnical investigation where we drilled borings into the ground to obtain data relative to subsurface conditions. As far as the findings, it was typical of what we see in New Brunswick for the most part, where you have overland soils, typically still clay variety, you get down to decomposed shale, and then eventually shale rock.
Did you test the soil?
Mr. Chairman, I have to object to the line of questioning. It was not in the application. It is a construction issue as to whether or not this building can be built, which the applicant will have to satisfy. And to start asking about boring, soil logs, and the like, it's a professional staff issue.
It's an environmental investigation that this witness prepared.
And
I'm asking questions based upon what was in his report.
I'm sorry, I lost.
Section 2.6, as a matter of fact.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I want to know if you did any testing on the soil. I don't mean to sound like I'm shouting, but I'm hearing people say.
Understood. I'm doing the same
I'm not
thing over
shouting
here.
at you. I want people to hear me.
When you say testing on the soil, yes, we always do during geotechnical investigations.
Okay, and did you find any indication of any type of volatile or semi-volatile organics in those tests?
Not to my knowledge.
And how about the soil gas? Did you test the soil gas?
No. Not to my knowledge.
Did you test the groundwater?
When you say test the groundwater, we observe groundwater levels typically, but no, I do not believe any environmental testing was done.
What is the depth to the water table?
I would have to look in the report.
Do you have it with you?
But I don't have the full geotechnical report with me. I can venture a guess, but it'll be plus or minus if you like me to do so.
Okay, well, maybe next time, you know, it sounds like we're gonna go to another meeting, so maybe next time. if you brought
Sure.
it with you, okay? Mr. Stoll, it's my understanding you're not presenting a planner.
No, we were not.
That's all the questions I have of this witness, for the moment, subject to what he's bringing back next time. That report that he's bringing back next time, maybe at this time.
Well, that's assuming the hearing's not closed tonight, and the only thing left for the next meeting is a vote. I mean, I'm not assuming.
That is the intention.
Well-
The intention is to, for this meeting, to get all questions, testimony, and input, and then reserve the vote for the next meeting when we have a quorum.
Do you want me to get that answer for you in the next 5 minutes? I'll just walk outside while others are commenting.
Well, I'll answer that in a second. I would like to present, you know, a witness of my own at the next hearing before the board votes. I think I'm entitled to.
Who is, who is it that you today? Today's evening. Who is
What's-
this man?
What's
his
My
name?
client got the notice midweek last week. He hired me the next day. I tried to contact this gentleman. He was not in the office. I got him today. I did the best I could.
I don't know if I can answer your question today, but, I don't know.
Well, respectfully, I would like an answer. I'm not trying to be cross with
Can't hear
anybody.
you.
I just.
The objector tell us who he
I'm sorry,
represents.
I just would like to have an answer. If this is going to a next meeting, there's nothing wrong with presenting another witness in rebuttal to what has been done today.
I'll try and get an answer to you. Let's proceed now with the public testimony associated. We'll try and get an answer to you today, okay?
It's procedural and substantive due process, that's all I'm.
Can we get a name of who this person is?
Could you identify yourself so that
Hey,
these folks
could
know
the
who you
objector
are?
tell us who he represents, please, also?
Yes, I did earlier, sir.
I didn't
My
hear you.
name is Peter V. MacArthur, I'm with MacArthur Law,
Yeah.
75 Lane Road, Suite 204, Fairfield, New Jersey. I represent Albus Associates, and they are at 83 Moore Street, in the city of Brunswick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry if I made you repeat.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think, and we can deal with your response before the end of the evening. I think you can open the meeting to the public at this point in time. My position is, and I don't try to, excuse the phrase, muzzle anyone, but the MLUL does permit boards to put time limits on the public. I can tell you, what Mr. Solomon knows, the statute is clear. Has been enforced by the appellate division. I mean, I'm just suggesting perhaps a request of a 5 minute per person with a request they don't duplicate of prior remarks.
Yeah, well, that is our approach. That is what we traditionally do at these meetings in terms of entertaining public comment. So I think we're going to proceed to that part of the meeting today, just so we get an idea of what we're dealing with here. How many folks here intend to ask questions or provide a statement? Okay, that's good.
How many people are standing?
Okay, that's helpful. So just a few ground rules here. We do provide 5 minutes. We'd like you to make your point within a 5 minute time period. That doesn't mean you have to use the whole entire 5 minutes. If you can make your point within 1 minute or two, great. You know, that's even better. Also, if someone succeed, you know, if you are raise your hand and you want to present, ask a question, or make a statement, and somebody else has already done that, asked the same question, all you need to say is, oh, I have asked the same question as the person prior to me. You know, so you save everybody time. And your comments need to be relevant to this application, not general. I want to just reiterate that because of the one person at this meeting who had a conflict of interest, we now have we don't have a quorum to be able to vote on this plan tonight. We're going to table that until the next meeting, but we are going to compile comments and share those with other board members prior to the next meeting. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to conduct the next meeting, but the intention is that we are tabling this until the next meeting, and that's when a vote will be conducted, if and when we have a quorum. Those of you who would like to comment, please raise your hand and give Dan your name.
No, I think that making a list here might be...
Might be too much?
Yeah.
Are there that many?
Yeah, I think we just have to, one at a time, come forward, and we'll swear you in and run the clock.
Perhaps front row first?
All right, that's fine. If you don't mind, I'll just, every time someone presents, just raise your hand and I'll pick you out. Okay? You first, since you're right in front of me.
I'll be brief, very brief.
Your name?
Andrew Farkas.
Can you please spell your last name for the record?
Farkas.
Mr. Farkas, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do indeed.
All right, you have 5 minutes.
I reside at 278 George Street at the corner of Morris Street. The last time I appeared before this body, it was to commend you to approve another adjacent development to my house. Unfortunately, I am not of the same mind with this lift development proposal as it stands. I'm against the variance being sought by the developer for the proposed on-street loading zones. All right, we'll call it a variance, you call it a waiver. We know what we're talking about. That loading zone on Morris Street is what I'm talking about. The width of this one-way, narrow street should not be further reduced or curtailed in any way. Morris Street is problematic right now. Both day and night, there are tractor trailers unloading goods to be sold at the 24-hour 7-Eleven. These trucks park on Morris Street in the right-of-way. Dumpsters are rolled out every afternoon into the lane of travel on Morris Street from Rockoff Hall, or SoCal, or whatever they call that building now. That's the building with the parking deck egress. And egress from that parking deck in Rockoff Hall is severely curtailed and even dangerous on weekend nights and most of the day on Sundays, starting early in the morning, because of church attendance at mid-block. I know this because my driveway, in and out of my driveway from my property is located on Morris Street. And even on good days when the driveway is not blocked by tradesmen's trucks or inconsiderate car parking, I still have to navigate with great trepidation. Snow removal is also a major issue. When large snowfalls are expected, local car owners on George Street are required to move their cars off the street. I know that the city provides certain parking decks for them to use. A lot of times they don't use them because they don't want to have to move the car in 24 hours. So they park on Morris Street, and that creates absolute chaos with snow removal. There's a great density of dwelling units and businesses already located on this one city block. I must beg to question if there's any common sense in allowing it to be built. And also, I want to say this, in the past, the planning board, not these members, but the planning board of New Brunswick made mistakes. When they approved Rockoff Hall, the SoCal building, by not addressing the tremendous amount of trash and garbage generated there, and by overlooking issues with heavy snow removal. I live with these hardships daily because of your mistakes. Please consider your variance approvals very carefully. They will affect the quality of life for a large number of people for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raise your hand if you
I
are,
thought you were starting with Desiree.
you're presenting.
I'm presenting.
Okay.
May I?
5 minutes.
Stop me at 5.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Joseph Milestone, M-I-L-E-S-T-O-N-E.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have the floor. 5 minutes.
I am a trustee of the Elks Lodge. We've been supporting and serving New Brunswick for over 130 years. And this building will let us do a better job for the community who we love, the community who is a member of our organization, and the community that we want to keep supporting: the schools, the police, the fire department. This building is very symbolic for us. If you look at our building now, you'll see there are really no windows. The building's closed. This will give us a panoramic view of the city, and the city will be able to see what the Elks are doing, all the good that we are going to host in this banquet hall. I really don't like people calling it a banquet hall. I know that that's what it's called in the plans. In our mind, it's our community center. It's where we welcome all different organizations of the city who come and use our facility. Rarely do we charge them. We're delighted to have them. That's our connection to this city. We have been growing recently. Our DEI efforts are commendable. When you look at the makeup of our lodge, you see our neighbors, your neighbors. This new location will let us serve the city better, let us welcome more members in really just better facilities, more amenities, and to let us do some more fundraising. And our money stays in New Brunswick. When we raise money, it stays in New Brunswick. When our national gives us grants, that money is spent in New Brunswick. We are so behind this building. We consider it a lifesaver. I think without this building, I'm just really concerned about the future of the Elks in New Brunswick. And that distresses all of us. That distresses our entire membership. Because first and foremost, we believe we are the New Brunswick Elks. We believe that we're your neighbors and your friends. And we want to do really a better job of giving back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raise your hand, please. Next, please.
How much did you get from the developer?
Name, please.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Ciccone, and I'd like to be qualified as an objector before we get into my 5 minutes.
Well, we've kind of been through this before. What's your basis for being an objector other than just saying you're an objector?
I served on the New Brunswick Historical Association Board as an advisor to the mayor from 2018 to 2020. I've spoken before this board and been counted as an expert before. I own the William H. Johnson House in New Brunswick, New Jersey, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. I'm the one who got the Elks Club certified for eligibility in the National Register Historic District, Livingston Avenue Historic District. I'm also the one that got the Elks Club put on the Preservation New Jersey 2020 10 Most Endangered Sites list. I'm the person who writes every single Facebook post for the New Brunswick Historical Society, and I'm considered an expert at New Brunswick history in general, including I've spoken before the Christchurch 280th and other various boards and events throughout the city of New Brunswick.
Did you contact the staff of the planning board to notify them that you planned on doing this at this meeting?
No, I did not. I was not under the impression I was required to do it in advance based on procedural Robert's Rules of Order.
what did you advise on this? Have you been through this before?
Well, I'm not sure what the basis of the request is. If your qualifications notwithstanding, what does that got to do with you being an objector on the MLU?
Well, I want to object to these plans on the basis of historic preservation issues, of which I am an expert.
Do you need more than 5 minutes to make your point?
I'm not sure, because I do have a few questions for the folks before I would like to just say my speech.
Well, my position is that she should be entitled to speak as an objector. She doesn't have to be an expert to speak. She has her views, she should have her 5 minutes, and just like everyone else in this room. I don't think that her knowledge, with due respect to her, that expertise raises her above the level of any other speaker in this room, that's all.
How about we proceed and you can object to this project within the 5-minute time period that you provided, and let's see how that goes.
I'm concerned because I do have questions aside from my statement.
You can make questions, you can ask questions.
Very well
if
then.
if they can be answered.
I did.
You need to still be sworn in.
Oh, I beg your
yeah.
pardon.
And you need to spell your name for the record also.
Elizabeth Ciccone, Ciccone, residing at the William H. Johnson House, 52 Welton Street, New Brunswick.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may begin.
Thank you. I did review the materials that were posted to the planning board website, which did include an environmental plan. However, I did not see within that environmental plan any reference to a Section 106 review. While I appreciate that the LTOL is privately owned and a Section 106 review is not technically required under the statute, the side of the building facing Morris Street overshadows the Henry Guest House and the Willow Grove Cemetery, both of which are publicly owned buildings and thus therefore require a Section 106 review. Where is that material in your package?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking whoever is representing this project and can speak about Section 106.
Well, as I indicated earlier, I don't mind admitting to my ignorance on certain issues. I don't know what you're talking about as Section 106. What I do know is this property is not in any state or municipal historic registry, and if you were saying that it's not subject to 106, except it looks over the cemetery, I would have to say to you, I disagree with you. There is no such review necessary.
According to the Secretary of Interior standards, the Section 106 review is required when there is potential encroachment and impact on historic properties that are publicly owned. In this case, the encroachment is in the sight line and situation as to how it would affect and overshadow both the Henry Guest House and the Willow Grove Cemetery. And the extreme increase in traffic, including loading zones and the excess traffic emissions that will cause, could potentially damage those buildings. And a requirement in the state of New Jersey and under the federal law is that that needs to be reviewed by the Department of Environmental Protection, State Historic Preservation Office. Now, I have contacted the State Historic Preservation Office, but I haven't heard back from them yet. As far as I know, you have not supplied any material documentation regarding a Section 106 review, so I must presume you haven't done one unless you can supply that material now.
Well, with respect, I'm not going to supply anything to you right now because you've articulated yourself very well. I don't know if any of what you've said with regard to state or federal law is accurate or applicable. You just indicated, and I don't want to get argumentative, you said you called the state, they did not call you back. I don't know how long ago you called the state. All I know, as far as we're concerned, there is no applicability with regard to a historical designation for this building. If you think otherwise, then you have a right to attempt to raise it.
In fact, the certification of eligibility letter was issued by the state of New Jersey for the LTOL itself to expand the Livingston Avenue Historic District to include that building.
Where was that document?
I did not bring that with me today, but the City of New Brunswick and the Elks were issued a copy of that letter, the same as I was when I applied for it.
How long ago?
I believe that eligibility letter was issued within the last year, but again, I would have to check my own records.
Well, I'm not aware of it, and I would indicate with respect to the expertise of the professional staff of the city, it has been nowhere in any reports or designations, so we have no way to respond to that which is absent.
I think the question's been answered, so you said you have several questions. Go on to the next one.
Who is?
1 minute warning, by the way.
Again, I disagree that this should be counted as my 5 minutes. Who is funding this project? Is it private funding?
I would normally say it's none of your concern, but it is, excuse me, my client is a private developer, and the source of funds will be as he determines. It's not government funds, if that's your question.
That was what I was alluding to, thank you. May I now read my statement? I don't believe it will take very long. I'm Elizabeth Saccone. My husband and I own the William H. Johnson House at 52 Welton Street, New Brunswick, a National Register of Historic Places listed home just a couple of blocks from the Elks Hall. Like many people, I have fond memories of attending events in the Elks Hall, including that our wedding reception was held there. In addition to the sentimental feelings I have, I recognize that it is our civic duty to save this building for posterity due to its importance to our community. For that reason, I'm the one who applied for and attained a listing on the 10 most endangered buildings listing sponsored by Preservation New Jersey. I'm also the one who applied for and attained a certification of eligibility letter for the building so that it can be included in the National Register listed Livingston Avenue Historic District. I had hoped these actions would convince the Elks to save the building. I'm further hoping that this public outcry will make the Elks understand how important their building is to our feelings of community. Because I know the Elks are founded upon community service, I hope we can convince them that saving this building will be a service to the community. While I am in favor of restoring the building and setting it up for adaptive reuse, such as what has recently occurred with an Elks colony in Jersey City, I understand that would prove difficult due to various concerns with the building's infrastructure. Therefore, I am proposing the preservation of the building's brick and cement facade, with that facade being attached to the new construction. This will preserve our historic streetscape. I would also propose that any new construction be designed to mesh smoothly with the current facade, meaning that it should be designed in similar brick and mortar. Without a doubt, the elk sculpture by Laura Gordon Fraser must be preserved along with its base, which should be properly restored. It is within the purview of this board to make the approvals for this construction contingent upon these preservation measures. It is incumbent upon the developer, not the city or the Elks, to incur the costs associated with these requirements. I implore the members of this board and the Elks to include these terms for historic preservation related to new construction on this site. Beyond my discussion of the Elks itself, I have reviewed the application documents that are attached to the city website. There are some statements related to environmental impact, but none of those seem to include a section 106 review for impact to the historic Henry Guest House and the equally historic Willow Rose Cemetery, both of which will be towered over by this proposed construction. These historic properties will be greatly impacted by the additional traffic congestion on Morris Street. Sightlines and streetscape impacts require amelioration.
I have to interrupt. You made that point already. We heard that. And it's not fair to others that you're extending beyond the 5 minutes. So thank you very much. I think we understand your concerns, and especially your recommendation to incorporate the facade into the proposal.
I would just say finally that I hope that you will require the developers to provide a proper section 106 review before making any approvals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name.
Hi, yes, I'm very well known throughout the project. My name is Danielle Moore. Do I have to be sworn in?
Yes, I do. Could you just spell your last name?
M-O-O-R-E?
Do you swear or affirm to the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, yes, I do. Now, really, I don't need a microphone due to where I'm good at meetings already, but like I said, I'm a resident, been here 46 years, well known in New Brunswick, where I'm the young lady that fought for Livingston Avenue, getting approved for $6.6 million. And the thing that I'm gonna say to the planning board, wow, sure, your building looks beautiful, but wow, what was you told back in about 4 months ago? New Brunswick is overpopulated already. You just had to expand the New Brunswick High School on 27. What did the lawyer from the Board of Education tell you? Our schools are jam-packed. We do not need any more. What, you got the Sears complex to come up. What, you got an apartment complex on Livingston Avenue coming up, Lee and Sanford coming up, then what, another complex on French Street, another complex on French Street, Jersey Avenue. Yo, come on, enough is enough. And please, like I said, if you really take the heart to even approve this, I'm not against the duty, but like I said, as a resident, where what? Come on. New Brunswick is overpopulated. Every time you plan something with these buildings, oh, no one's allowed to be in with a car. Well, you had to bring another case back from Livingston Avenue due to issues with parking. It's going to be a severe issue of parking down there. What, due to the grocery store, the library, then what, State Theater, then also this is going to interact with the school, where you're saying this traffic flow is not going to interact with Roosevelt School, with the kids getting out. Remember, Livingston Avenue is a single lane. This is no longer 2 lanes on each side. So yes, it is going to impact the traffic. And like I said, please, due to where I like it, and it looks beautiful, but like I said, everything is not about beauty in New Brunswick, due to where you need to start thinking on the things that will improve New Brunswick, and it's surely not with all these luxury buildings, due to where also the city council just possibly approved to put another one on George Street with Abundant Light. Come on, like I said, enough is enough. Overpopulation. We do not need any more due to where these luxury apartments where are all these buildings filled up. None of them are. What they still say leasing on it, leasing, so we don't need any more space. So please, that's my main concern. Like I said, due to where, wow, do you really think beauty is going to change New Brunswick out of all of the crime that keeps going on in here? What, is beauty fixing a park, doing this as someone saying, gonna fix it? Come on. Enough. You can't even handle with the crime rate in New Brunswick. This is not gonna change New Brunswick. We're looking good. We're what, 62 records of burglary, 48 records of simple assault, 25 records of aggravated assault, three murders, and on top of 6 dead bodies, and 2 shootings in the month of October. Like I said, stop focusing, bringing in more people due to where you can't control what is done in New Brunswick already. Please, like I said, as a resident here 46 years, due to where New Brunswick was never overpopulated like this, and like I said, no disrespect to your building, sir, but like I said, I have to think about the safety of due to where, like I said, too many cars, that's a 1 lane now with Livingston Avenue. Come on, with that parking, and you're saying it's not going to congest coming in and out? It surely will. It's going to impact with the schools there. Like I said, I'm a person due to where they all know me. I'm for safety. But like I said, out of all the apartment complexes you have coming up already, I was saying again, due to where, wow, remember what the lawyer from the Board of Education told you. Our schools are jam-packed. We can no longer fit any more kids in there. So please, for you to really take advantage and vote on this and say yes, when you know we're already overpopulated, then I call you no good board members, that's for sure. But New Brunswick is overpopulated already. Thank you.
I am with the HAYES.
Can you spell your last name?
HAYES.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have 5 minutes.
So I am the exalted ruler within New Brunswick Alps right now. Sorry about that. So I am the exalted ruler with the New Brunswick Elks at this time. The Elks, as my colleague said, it's been a fabric of New Brunswick for 128 years. The building located currently at 40 Livingston Avenue is an older building with some cool features, but it is functionally obsolete at this time and no longer serves our members well. The new LIVE project we are extremely excited about with the beautiful architecture will only complement the aesthetic of the existing neighborhood as it stands with all of the newer buildings there. We are very excited about this project and we can't wait to get it underway, as hopefully it will. And it will serve our members, grow our memberships, and some of the things that we do for the community, as my colleague mentions, the PBA, the Fire Department Union, some local nonprofits, Rotary Club, the local DFW post, all meet at our lodge several times a month for free. If they need to hold fundraising events, we usually are able to accommodate them at no cost. We also just received a grant from our Elks National Foundation to the New Brunswick Middle School with $4,000 worth of lunchtime games. So we are contributing to the community on a daily basis. We do everything we can to help out. We have a lot of other projects coming up. So, but without this, moving into this lovely new building, the Elks may not be able to survive. The former person that talked from earlier about Jersey City, I'll just tell you Jersey City's Elks closed. They no longer exist in Jersey City. So that is something that may happen to the New Brunswick Elks if, this, like I said, modern, beautiful, the wonderful work we can do and help this community will be great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Bonora, B-O-N-U-R-A.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may begin.
My name is Elizabeth Bonora. I am the secretary for the New Brunswick Elks 324. Our membership voted for the sales agreement between New Brunswick Elks 324 and the developer, Robert Weiss. It was approved by the Grand Lodge in Chicago and was signed by my sister Carol Bonora, who was an exalted ruler 8 years ago, and also signed by myself as secretary of the lodge. Unfortunately, my sister passed away on August 11, 2023, and she would be standing up here today in support of this new endeavor. Our present building is in disrepair, and would take substantial amount of money to remedy. That's why we put the building up for sale. Our lodge is a very community orientated. We hold numerous benefits for the poor, special children's needs, veterans, and the homeless. This new facility would be built by Mr. Weiss, who would enable New Brunswick Elks 324 better serve the community. I suggest this development, and I feel that this would be beneficial to not only our lodge, but to the city of New Brunswick as a whole. Please approve Weiss' development plans. Thank you. Yes,
Thank you. My name is Salvatore Malancanco.
You gotta spell that.
I figured I did. Malancanco.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
The floor is yours.
Okay. As I said, my name, I live in Edison, New Jersey, but I've been in New Brunswick Elk for 14 years. I am a trustee this year at the Elks. I am a two-time past exalted ruler of the lodge and a past vice president of our district. I saw the plans of this building and it looks fantastic. Its location is perfect. We're downtown with the State Theater, George Street, beautiful. I'm not going to reiterate what you've heard before about the condition of our building, okay? But this development would enable us to continue helping the schools of New Brunswick, the children of New Brunswick, with our hoop shoot, our soccer shoot, our youth activities programs, our donations to the school. We donated, I think it was $4,000 to the middle school just within the last month, okay? If this doesn't happen, we can't continue doing what we're doing in New Brunswick. So I plead with you to approve this so we can move forward and continue helping the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Raymond, Father Raymond Nacarino, Nacarino.
You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You may begin.
I'm a pastor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church, located at 75 Morris Street. Our parish has over 3,500 families, and we have a CCD program for about 800 kids, and that they come Tuesday through Saturday. On Saturday in several sessions. Every time that we have CCD, the religious education program, the parents come by Morris Street from Livingston to George Street. They stop at the entrance of the church, they leave their kids and they go. And 1 hour later they come back to pick them up in that way, because there is no material parking in Morris Street for all the parents to wait there for the children. As I said, on Saturdays we also have 5 sessions, so this happens 5 times on the Saturday morning. As you can imagine, we are concerned. We are concerned about the traffic, the flow of the traffic. We are concerned about what already we bother our neighbors with the patience that they have with all the children, all the parents, all the cars, and we are concerned about the construction of the building, mainly the logistics that we were talking before. Is the fourth building that that has been built around us. And we have seen many complications on that, especially on the safety issues. The first is the safety issue is the most important. In the last 2 constructions, debris came from above and right there in front of the church, where the children passed by and where the bystanders and the people from the family. And it was not the timing where they were working, just simply wind, and then the wind blowing. So it's a concern that I want to put on the table, that all those who are constructing, they should be very, very careful on how they secure all the debris that they could come down. And I have it in the camera, that how a piece of wood like that came down right there in front of the church. So that is really a concern, especially with children. So an issue that should be addressed, to my concern. And a second issue is what I said, the traffic. Is it going to be close the street during construction? Is it going to put I don't know, I'm just asking. I was talking to the engineer before, and he assured me that there is not going to be a permanent construction. Is that right? Permanent blocking of...
Right, the intention would not be to close Moore Street for an extended duration during construction. Ideally, we would always have one lane open on Moore Street to allow for through traffic. There may be... I understand that, but the roadway is 24 feet wide now. We may reduce that lane width to 14 feet. That's what I mean by allowing one lane to go by. But the intention would be to always have through traffic available to move forward. As I say that, though, There may be, when we do utility installation for an 8-hour period, there could be very minimal closure times, but it would not be an extended closure for months at a time, weeks at a time, isolated closures.
Because somehow I heard that there was gonna be for maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I mean, imagine I have a funeral, or if I have a wedding, how are they gonna turn around and to wait in Morris Street? That's impossible.
Agreed.
Agreed, right?
1 minute warning.
But that's essentially is I was asking the applicant if they will be just I put the question back there, if they will be so nice and to provide a police escort or police during the times that we have the CCD program during construction. That will help. That's a question I put there.
So that's,
that will be.
you're recommending that as a condition associated with board approval?
Yeah, for example.
Okay.
That's
We'll make note of that.
You know, just for the safety of the children, you know, have police guard.
Typically, that is the case, but I can't say for this project, but yeah. We'll take that into consideration.
Also, I was thinking in something like, right now the Millennium Bank is out of business, I believe.
Yeah.
So I was asking if there's possibility for our parishioners to park there during the time of construction.
That's time.
It's fine?
Time.
Yeah, you reached your 5 minutes, but I don't know if we can answer that question now. I mean, we don't know anything about that, the parking associated with that. But again, that's a question that, we can make note of.
So it's my time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has questions or what? Yep, come on up.
My name is Susan Miller. I live here in New Brunswick.
You gotta speak into the mic.
Okay, sorry. Susan Miller. I live here in New
Can you
Brunswick.
please spell your last name?
Miller.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may begin.
I just wanted to second the points that were made about historic preservation. This building is over 100 years old.
They can't hear you, I think.
I say I want to
Yeah.
second the points that were made about historic preservation because the building is over 100 years old.
No, it isn't. It's not over 100 years old.
How old is it?
98.
Oh, okay. It's almost 100 years old.
Not over 100.
But by the time it's replaced, it will be 100 years old, okay? It's a very old building. It's a part of the historic character of the town. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be a consideration for very many people here. In addition, I find the traffic survey report to have been completely implausible. If you're going to have 407 apartments in this place, I mean, assuming you can find 407 people to occupy them, which I'm not sure you can, but okay, let's say the place fills up. Then you could conceivably have 700 or 800 people in there. And you're telling me there's 355 cars at the place, you're not gonna have an appreciable effect on traffic? That's la la land. That's simply not possible. I don't care what the traffic engineer said. Use your common sense, please. It's simply not possible to have that many people in a building and not have any effect on the traffic patterns, It's a disaster in the making. And after it happens, everyone will say, well, but we had a report. Come on. Use your common sense, please.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Miranda.
Please state
Spell that, please.
Please spell your last name.
Miranda, M-I-R-A-N-D-A.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may begin.
Okay, my main concern to you guys is, I'm a member of the church for probably over 15 to 20 years, been going to that church. I have seen the changes and I'm very, very concerned. Look very nice, but it's very concerning to our community since there's like 2,500 people who go into this building every Sundays. We have 7 masses. I'm a CCD teacher as well. And this is very concerning to our kids, especially our kids of New Brunswick. And our community as well, as the priest was saying before, the Devries, and not only that, the concerning is, I was hearing what he was saying about the trafficking. I'm thinking about most of our kids are Hispanic community. Most of them, they walk by themselves. And this is very concerning when he said that there was going to be trucks driving into this and making deliveries. Very dangerous. So I will consider about approving this because our kids are in danger as well as the community. Not only the people who come from outside, but also these 2,500 people that comes to Mass every Sunday. So I guess the study that they have made, they need to revisit that. And concerning, I know they already spoke about the traffic. It takes me like around more than 20 minutes to make a line in order for me to turn on New Street. And with this,
Yes.
how long is it gonna take me? Probably an hour or more?
Yes.
So just revisit that and consider that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Pepe, P-E-P-P-E, and I am an elk. I've been an elk
Ma'am,
for...
ma'am, swear you in.
Oh,
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Begin.
Thank you. I've been an elk for about 16 years. I am proud to say that I'm a past exalted ruler. I am currently a trustee for the past 10 years. But I'm here to speak about what the Elks have been throughout the years. I understand that we're concerned about the historic element of this building, which is so deteriorated, it's really beyond pitiful. My husband, who is not here tonight, is 86 years old. He was born in his grandmother's house in New Brunswick with club feet. His father brought him to the Elk Lodge as an infant because every Saturday morning there was a physician there that wrapped his feet until they finally straightened out. His parents were first-generation Italians. They couldn't afford, really serious medical care. It was during the Depression. He was born in 1937. And this is the type of service that the Elk Lodge has provided for all these years. He has no issues walking now. I'm sure there are many other children from his era that have benefited from what the Elks has done. Through the years, that whole doctor on-site program has evolved into us caring for special needs children. There is a special camp in New Jersey called Camp Moore. This lodge sends at least 8 to 10 children every year to Camp Moore. Basically, they're autistic. They have a one-on-one counselor that works with them during the summer. When they go, they get to go for 1 week at no cost to the parents. This Elk Lodge also provides scholarships. We send kids for peer leadership. We sent 4 last year. We sent 4, we're gonna send 4 this year. We talk to children and educate them about drug awareness. We have a big drug awareness walk. If our lodge is not replaced with this wonderful new building, we are probably going to lose our spot here in New Brunswick, which would be really, really sad. So we're very much looking forward to moving into this gorgeous new facility. And I just want to say, if you Google Mr. Robert Weiss, our developer, you'll see that he has accomplished many, many projects throughout the state of New Jersey. Somerville, Florence, I believe Mount Laurel. There's a lot of luxury apartments he's built. He's partnered with the Marriott. He's accomplished wonderful things, and I have no doubt that he will not consider anything that needs to be of concern with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come up.
My name is George Gussis, and I've been a resident of New Brunswick, either through my office or my house for 83 years.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
George Gussis, GUSS.
Excuse me. Mr. Gussis is represented by counsel. Counsel is standing behind him. The MLU indicates that if you're represented, you are not able to also speak.
I can present fact witnesses. Mr. Gussis is going to talk about where his building is and how this application affects it.
Well, that may be for another time.
First of all, this attorney represents Outwich Associates. I'm speaking for myself as an individual. I'm the managing partner of Outwich Associates. So, do you want me to spell my last name?
Please.
Gussis, first name George.
Do you swear affirm to the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Give me 1 second. You may begin.
I have been on Bar Street since 2010. I can tell you that there is no loading zone for the George Street Co-op. The trucks, no one's described the trucks and the size of the trucks. No one has given any testimony with regard to how many times the deliveries are made. The Elks deliveries are made on site. The site is not going to be there because it will be developed with this building. I don't know where they see 2 egresses on Morris Street. There's one big egress that's there. But I can tell you that the traffic count that they did was not done on the relevant times. From 7 to 9 in the morning, there's very little traffic, but during the day, there's much traffic. And the other thing is moving 3 parking spaces from the beginning is not going to help anything. There shouldn't be any parking spaces on Morris Street. It's only 24 feet wide. When they did the Rockwell Fall, they screwed up everything because there's no turning lane for the left and there's no parking for the 7-Eleven. All they do is block. The customers who go there block the right lane. You cannot even get out of the parking garage there into the right lane without going into the left lane. That's how tight it is. Then we have the problem of the garbage. No one ever made Rockwell Fall provide space for their garbage. So until I started mailing pictures of the garbage to the mayor, it was all over the street. And now there's still a dumpster there all day long. On the other side, on Mr. Parkinson's side, there's a dumpster there. It has nothing to do with moving students on it. It's in periodically and blocking his driveway. I've seen it. Now, at 5 o'clock, when they did the count, they did it from, 4 to 6? The CCD classes are from 5:30 to 6:30. That's when they should have done the count. At 5:30 to 6:30, I can't even get out of my driveway. And I have a 13-car parking lot. So that is what this project is. No one's described the length from Morris Street to New Street. I come from Piscataway every morning, and I have to make a left-hand turn onto Livingston Avenue. And I can tell you how they screwed up those lanes there. they have left turn lanes to come down from Livingston Avenue. And what happens is when the car comes, when I move on, I have to get into the oncoming lane in order to make a left turn onto Morris Street. Now, they didn't describe the distance between George Street, between Livingston Avenue and where these ingresses and egresses are gonna be. I didn't hear any testimony to tell what the traffic is for the restaurant, for the Elks. And I didn't hear anything about the parking for the banquet halls. Those are all things that you didn't hear. But that's the traffic, and if you see where, and they want to cut down the distance for the opening, you heard Mr. MacArthur tell you that the trucks are over 8 feet wide, and they wanted access for 8 feet. It's just impossible. The traffic count should be also on the weekend. Father Necarino has testified that they have 7 masses, 6 during the day and 1 at night. The amount of traffic is incredible. When they have a funeral, you cannot even get into my parking lot, and you can't go down the street. And the Elks who sit here and tell you that they need this project, it's not even named the Elks. It's named Live. So they were there all those years. They have a great site. They had parking. They could have raised money, and they could have saved that building. They didn't do it. They didn't even save the Elk. Why they need 400 units in order to raise money for their project, I don't even think that's a consideration for you. You have to consider the impact of the project, the traffic, the distance from New Street to Morris Street, and the traffic that will generate, and you have no idea when these people will come out of those apartments. So when you listen, the biggest problem with this is the traffic count is on the long days, and the amount of problems that they're causing is tremendous, and it's now. And I'm there in the office from 4 o'clock in the morning till 5:30, and I see it all. So you can't even walk down that street sometimes because the garbage cans are out, and no planning is done for that at all. Nothing was done. When DEVCO came into being, the city abdicated its planning practices to DEVCO. And so they let them get away with all that when they did Rockwell Hall. And I don't think you should do that here. You can't consider that 400 apartments plus are not going to create the same problems that Rockwell Hall did. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Crowder.
Charlie Crowderville,
Spell your last name.
K-R-A-T-O-V-I-L.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. So first, a procedural question. To be clear, there is a quorum present, right?
There was a quorum initially for the meeting. One member had a conflict associated with this project, and so a vote is not going to be conducted this evening.
I understand, but just to be clear,
There is a quorum present now, otherwise we couldn't be having the hearing, right?
I understand what you're saying, but, we decided that we would allow for the testimony of people here so as not to have to send them all home.
Well, if I may, just to clarification, our position is that.
Could everyone please use his microphone?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just one second, John. Our position is. No, I'll give it back to you. But I'll yield to you. The board had 5 members. 5 members was the quorum of a planning board which has 9 members. I'm not trying to be professorial. The meeting opened, we saluted the flag, you did resolutions, you did minutes. I take the position, a quorum exists for this meeting. For this matter, we had 1 member who deemed himself, want to recuse himself from the consideration of this application. I submit that the board, but I don't know what Mr. Solomon's position is, I take the position the board could vote, okay, and the board would then have to, three-fourths, but I yield
Thanks.
to you.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not sure that it would be a legitimate vote in that instance. And in response to your question, we only have 4 members here, so no, we do not have a quorum at the moment. But a statement was accurate. We started with a quorum of the board.
Respectfully then, through you, for the council, isn't it true the board cannot conduct business without a quorum?
Well, we're not going to conduct a vote on this at this meeting.
But you've been taking testimony and asking questions. Doesn't that require a quorum to do that kind of business? And question through you to the council.
Well, this question was addressed at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know if you were here, but Mr. Stahl's presentation is an accurate one. The board has decided to hear the testimony. They're not going to take a vote or make a decision on it because of the lack of the 5-member minimum.
And exactly how we're going to conduct the next meeting in which we do schedule a vote is a little uncertain. We're going to need to discuss that.
Could you please use the microphone?
Yeah.
Really sorry. Just to reiterate, we're not going to conduct a vote tonight, but we will at the next meeting or at a future meeting. And exactly what the conduct of that meeting is going to be, we're going to have to determine prior to that meeting. So it is an unusual situation, obviously. But we didn't want to send everybody home and tell them to come back, in a month. Didn't think that was fair either. So we compromised in this instance, and I understand your statement.
Thank you. And yeah, I do think it was not the right thing to do to proceed tonight. Obviously, the board should have a full complement of members to hear the application and be able to ask questions in real time. And if the board couldn't muster that, then you should have postponed, in my humble opinion. Are there any development partners, or is Weiss Properties the only company doing this development?
The question to me, the applicant is the New Street entity, that is a developer. I'm sorry. The developer, New Street, is the developer and will be the developer pursuant to the redevelopment zone.
It was alluded to that this is a redevelopment project. Which redevelopment area? Downtown?
Downtown, yes.
Okay.
And the downtown redevelopment plan.
Thank you. And has the applicant been designated redeveloper by the redevelopment agency?
At the present time, the redevelopment agency requested that we come to this board first, and then we'll be back to the redevelopment agency.
Okay. Does the applicant intend to apply for a long-term tax exemption from the city government?
We don't have information on that at this time.
Okay. What is the approximate cost of renting a unit going to be?
We don't have that information.
Okay.
But it's not necessary for the board to consider rentals in connection with approval, you know that.
Sure, it's good information to have, though. I'd like to see if any of these places are places that I could afford, or my neighbors could afford, and often I find that they're not. Is there any plans to include affordable housing in the project? No. So 400 units, 0 affordable.
All market rate.
Okay. It's something that gives me pause personally, because I see the city becoming increasingly unaffordable, and I think the city government acknowledges that we are in a housing crisis here, and doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to solve it. So I'm concerned about how this project fits into meeting the needs for our residents. I do agree with Ms. Ciccone about the historic significance of the space. I could share with you some of my memories from the building, but I won't bore you with those. I do want to just say, though, as somebody who occasionally organizes events, it is not easy to find good places to host events that are not prohibitively expensive to rent. So I for one, appreciate the Elks offering their hall for rent, and I hope that whatever happens in the future, that they'll continue to offer it at affordable prices. Also sympathetic to the concerns raised by the members of the church. I have never had the pleasure of being inside the church, but just from walking around the neighborhood, you can see that there's a very active hub for the community, and that certainly on special occasions, they draw hundreds or thousands of people to the location. And,
1 minute.
thank you. And, yeah, just concerned by some of the other testimony I heard with respect to the impact on traffic. And, yeah, I think perhaps there could be more collaboration between the developer and their other neighbors. It's great that the Elks and the co-op, of which I'm a member, have been brought into the fold and have, you know, been part of the discussion, but I feel like not everyone on the block has, and there's some very legitimate concerns. So I would urge the developer to go back and come up with a plan that satisfies some of these concerns, especially the suggestions about preserving the historic facade of the building. I think that, you know, it can be done. It might be more complicated and expensive, but it will be worth it. And I sincerely encourage the applicant to do that. I also encourage the board to proceed with caution and not rush a vote. I think it was rushed to have the hearing tonight. The agenda I received said this meeting was going to be in a different building, and that was changed. And I just I feel like this is moving very fast, and there's no need for it to move so fast. You can hold off till the next meeting and hopefully get some more information and maybe even a better plan. That's all for me.
Anyone else?
My name is John Leary, L-E-A-R-Y.
Yeah, you're gonna have to lean into that.
Am I not working?
Yeah, no, I tried, yeah.
All right, you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
All right, give me 1 second. Stop, you're good to go.
Thank you. So my name is John Leary, and I am a board member and the general manager at George Street Co-op, which obviously is involved in this project to a very great degree. I want to say that this is, I'm seeing some of the angles on this building for the first time, and it looks absolutely great, and I think everybody involved in New Street Associates has done, as far as I can tell, not an expert here.
You speak into the mic.
Has done a really good job at putting together this plan. The board of directors approved this project and supports this project in general. There were some things raised in tonight's meeting that I would just encourage the planning board to be very careful about. The first thing is actually the question of quorum. The idea, as I understand it in Robert's rules, is that doing business includes taking testimony and examining that testimony. And I would be very concerned about a situation in which somebody, whether accurately or not, accused members of the planning board of not doing due diligence as a result of that. So I would encourage you to just listen carefully to what the members of your community are saying about that potential concern, even if I have no particular objections about that. Another thing I would encourage the planning board to do is listen carefully to the testimony of the church and of the other residents of the street, commercial and non-commercial. I've been manager of the co-op for 12 years. I can say that there are times when traffic on Morris Street is a nightmare, and it definitely affects all of us who are trying to do business on the street. I have to do a lot of work when we are having deliveries at the co-op to make sure that I teach the truck drivers where they can park to minimize impact on other traffic on the street. And it sounds like this loading zone will actually make that easier, and for that I am cautiously happy, cautiously optimistic. But the concerns that were brought up by Mount Carmel Church, the concerns that were brought up by George Gus's, these concerns are valid concerns, and I would want the planning board, who I assume is the last body that would be able to mandate any particular changes to this plan, I would just want to make sure that you're doing absolute due diligence to make sure that any parking studies or traffic studies actually cover the information that's been brought up in today's meeting. With respect to environmental impacts, I don't know, is the planning board the body which holds, like, is there any other body which can say to a developer, you need to change this, you need to change this, or is this the last place that it happens? Because I'm not familiar with this.
The planning board recommendation will go to the city council, correct?
No, that would be for a redevelopment plan or some
Oh, in this case
ordinance
it would.
action. In this case, the planning board is the final
Okay.
decision maker.
Yeah, so I would just encourage the planning board to be very cautious about this, because when I hear this amount of concern in the community, and obviously I also manage an old building, so like the Elks,
I have my concerns that this project will actually help me very much for it, but I do not want to do this at the expense of the rest of the community and their concerns. So I would just implore you to really take a good look at what people are saying to you. Any of their concerns about that need to be addressed, about traffic, about safety. Make sure you're really addressing it, and make sure you're holding them to account. And I say this as somebody who believes in the project. Thank you. I have one more question, I apologize. Earlier today, I downloaded all the maps that I could related to this project. And right now, the redevelopment plan, the one that's on your website, does not include the space that's covered by this project. Now, it's dated 2013, so maybe it's just ancient information. But perhaps there's some way you could get more accurate information up on your website. I certainly would like a copy of that, if possible.
Is that something?
Yeah, we'll make a note of that. So,
Okay.
This plan was adopted in like April or something of this year, so it's much newer than whatever you're looking at.
Yeah, what you've published to the public is dated March 2013.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about you pay your commission to somebody else?
Anyone else? Come on.
Hi, my name is Erica, the last name is Arias, A-R-I-A-S.
Do you swear affirm to the whole country?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I've been a resident of New Brunswick for about 25 years. I've seen all the major changes in the city life. I'm a parishioner and also a CCD instructor at Mount Carmel. My biggest concern is the traffic. It is a narrow street. There's a lot of activity going on a daily basis. I teach on Tuesday nights and on Friday nights from 5:30 to 6:30. And sometimes I stay in the entrance to make sure that all the kids are picked up properly. They have to put up the instruction cones to make sure that the parents drop off and pick up the kids, and I make sure that the parents pick up the kids from the left side, closest to the church, to avoid accidents, because people are people and they forget that they have children too, and they just want to be on their way. So we have to be mindful. It's good that there's progress going on, but we also need to think of the people's day-to-day house routines and how it's disrupted. As a Catholic, we have very beautiful traditions. There's processions that we do during the summertime, so we just want to ensure that our Catholic faith is not interrupted. And that's it, that our community remains close-knit. And it's the same thing as my fellow parishioners and Father Ramon mentioned. It's a safety issue.
Thank you. Is that all?
I have a question. Stay the same, or just make?
Oh, that's fine, whether you're asking a question or making a statement, it's the same.
I'm Karen Carabello, Karen with a C, and Carabello, C-A-R-A-B-E-L-L-O.
Do you swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may.
So the question is, how's the board gonna vote next time when only 4 members have been exposed to the testimony and all the questions and answers?
Well,
So if I may,
Yeah.
Chair, so it's typical that when there's a hearing and if there are either a shortage or less than a normal number of voters, this typically would happen at a zoning board, but it could happen at the planning board too. The other voters or the members who aren't present here can listen to the audio of the meeting, and they would have to sign an affidavit swearing that they listened to it prior to being able to take any action on the meeting and on the hearing.
I think that would leave everybody out there a little iffy, and some sort of rubber stamping. Either way, it's a beautiful place, by the way, beautiful construction. I'm nothing against it. I will probably even benefit from it. Probably my value of the property or my property will go up. They're all happy. I'm siding with both sides, right? Regardless of that, parking is going to be a disaster. Just so I understand, the studies were made, I get it, but parking is going to be a disaster. I'm not going to be terribly affected, I can't say 100%, but most of the community here will be, for sure. The church, 100%, absolutely. So with that being said, I just, again, I'm a lay person here, so I can't say how you guys work. I'm only a resident of New Brunswick for about 6 years, so I'm kind of new. However, it feels like a little iffy if the next time there's a vote and we're gonna question, we're gonna wonder, wait, well, what happened? Where did it go? Who voted? How was it done? Just my humble opinion.
Well, the next meeting will be open to the public as this one is. And, you know, while I accept the criticism associated with the conduct of this meeting without a full quorum of members, I actually think there's a benefit here to having a month of time for board members to consider this rather than just have to make an impromptu vote, which is what we normally do. So I see the advantages and disadvantages of what happened this evening. So
if next time there could be some sort of like a hearing like this, maybe not the same length, right?
Yeah.
But some sort of, not just, well, remember what happened last time, you heard you were not here, you signed the affidavit, okay, let's vote. Half hour and we're done.
Understood,
right?
yeah.
So it's a little bit of, also for transparency.
I understand.
Right.
Thank you.
And again, parking is going to be a disaster, it's traffic, terrible.
No trust in them.
Your name?
Sean Taylor, Taylor.
Swear affirm to the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may begin.
Thank you. I will be very brief. First of all, I'm an Elk. I'm a trustee in New Brunswick Elk, and I've been an Elk for over 15 years. We at the New Brunswick Elk love this project. It is really the glue that's going to keep us stuck to New Brunswick for the next 100 years, we hope. But my fellow brother and sister Elks have said for all those wonderful reasons why this is such a great project, so I'm not going to repeat them. I happen to be for 21 years the chairman of the East Brunswick Planning Board. So I wanted to just take a minute to thank all of you who volunteer in New Brunswick, just like I volunteer in East Brunswick, and I've sat through many of these type hearings. So don't think that your service to your community goes unrecognized. And as a fellow planning board member from another town, I thank you for your continued service.
Thank you. Does that conclude our public comment on this application? Okay, so again, we're going to table this until the next meeting, and we'll see how that goes. We still have on the agenda other matters of interest to the public. If anyone wants to make a statement about anything, you can stay. And again, you'll be given time to make your statement.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what I was going to request is that since we're going to have another meeting, I did want to close the application tonight. And then the only thing that has to occur at the December meeting, which I would ask be continued without notice, without additional notice, then the board would, unless the board wants to reopen the matter, the file, the hearing is closed. The only thing left to be done would be discussion among the members and the discussion with the members who are not here and certify a review of the transcript, and then the board would make a decision.
All right, well, thanks for that recommendation. We'll, discuss that and see how we conduct the next meeting.
And I just wanted to confirm with Dan that Dan, if you need any extension of time, you have it from me, of course. And the next meeting would be what, December?
I don't have the date is typically the second Monday, so that would
December the 11th?
Yes.
We're gonna have it, just so everyone here knows.
Here.
We're gonna have it in the courtroom again.
We are here through the end of 2024 for all of our meetings in this room.
Thank you, Dan. December 11th, thank you.
Sorry, 2023, not 2024. For the rest of this calendar year. I'm sorry. Thank you, catch.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate, with all due respect, I take exception. I don't think the meeting shall close until this, my client has an opportunity to present the.
Can you use the microphone?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to take exception to Mr. Stahl's statements regarding the closing of the meeting before my client was able to present his expert. Okay, again, you're going to discuss.
Your client did present.
Yeah, well, he testified as a fact witness. Earlier, I indicated that I had an expert that would be able to come to the next meeting and testify, both as a traffic expert and as a planner. So I reiterate that it's fundamental, procedural, and substantive due process to allow a party who is involved in this action to present witnesses.
All right, thank you, we appreciate it. We'll take that into consideration. So, are we concluding this at this time? I think we are, correct?
No other testimony.
If there's no other testimony, we'll move to other matters of interest to the public. Ms. Moore?
Yes, Danielle Moore, so
Are there others? Let's just get an idea. Are there others that want to present?
This has nothing to do with my application.
It does not, no.
My professional will take their,
Go to it, yes. Thank you.
Okay, my question.
Give it a break. Wait until folks kind of settle.
Listen, I don't want to hold you up. I'm not going
Well,
to.
just-
It's
it's all right.
I know you're like I am. Did you guys maybe break a record tonight?
I don't think so.
3 hours and 18 minutes, is that a record?
I don't think so.
No? Well, maybe the Rutgers campus center was a little longer than this one, huh?
Yeah, that was like 3 a.m. was the one we finished.
Yes, it was a campus center. I think that might have been the longest one.
You have worked for us for these years.
Folks, if you're going to leave, please leave so that we can continue this meeting. Thank you very much.
Why didn't they raise money to, they did affordable weddings up there.
Okay, Ms. Moore, why don't you come up?
Well, like I said, I don't need a mic. Nobody here. Don't need to come up anymore.
Maybe with this noise in here, maybe you do, but okay, go ahead.
Like I said, well, my first question is, okay, when we come back to the next meeting, so what, as soon as you come back in, that's when we're gonna hear the vote?
I don't think we've determined that yet. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to conduct it. But the agenda that we'll provide an agenda for the next meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to make clear what the conduct of that meeting is.
So will people be able to speak again on it? That's why I want to understand which way is this going to be set up.
I don't know if I can answer that question at this time. We got recommendations from kind of both sides here about this, and we're going to have to consult between now and the next meeting and determine how we're going to conduct that meeting.
So, and basically with the other members that aren't here, I guess through, the way they would go through, I don't know if you guys record, but Mr. Carville's video?
I'll be recording the audio meeting.
Is it video,
No,
or?
it's audio.
Well, like I said, honestly, I say due to where to see the people and how they're responding, I say it's best to use Mr. Carville's video due to where that's not going to show expression on people how they feel. Just hearing somebody's voice, so I say it'll be better to share the other members with the live video instead.
Noted, okay, thank you.
That's one of my points, like I said, to really to see, like, due to how important it is. And like I said, I know you guys really always vote to say yes, but like I said, please look into consideration what like I said, stop just thinking about yes all the time, looking out for friends. Think about what you're really doing to New Brunswick. Are you really making New Brunswick better? I told you the difference is sure. You see Highland Park rebuilding, you see East Brunswick rebuilding, you see Franklin rebuilding, North Brunswick for one thing. Are they overpopulated like New Brunswick? No, they're not. So it's not a situation with them keep on building. But how many still more complexes? That is 10 more. You still have to come up. And like you were already told by the Board of Education attorney. Ooh, when I got them to say, ooh, our schools are jam-packed. While now the Board of Education or the city is planning on buying, 40 Van Dyke Avenue to make a second middle school? Permanent middle school? Please, think of it, like I said, enough. It's not like, wow, due to where, one of your council with the buildings next to me where I'm going to believe that's going to go through. Oh, nobody in this building is allowed to move in without a vehicle. Be for real. The things between you and the zoning board, what are doing, you're part of destroying New Brunswick. You're not making New Brunswick better. So please, I hope you really think about what you're doing. Everything is not about money. Money, doing. Look at the side effects of what you're creating due to where, like I said, overpopulation, due to where inspectors don't make sure when I was born and raised, only 5 to 6 people in the house, you got 20 to 30 people in a household. That's the issue with parking due to where they don't keep track of that. So like I said, please, even though it's pretty, but like I said, wow, don't judge a book just because something looks good. Doesn't have to be good. You see a nice sandwich, ooh, that looks yummy, then you taste it, oh my goodness, that's horrible. Side effects, if you understand what I'm saying. So please, honestly, I say enough with these luxury buildings due to what, like I said, the city just approved to build Abundant Life on George Street, another luxury building. Come on, we don't need this, like I said. If they can't keep up with the crime, start thinking about the homeless. Why I was just talking to Keith Jones today about it. Come on. New Brunswick is overpopulated. Come on, 46 years, I've never seen nothing like this before. And why is that? That's because the city council, the planning board, the zoning board, and the mayor, you're destroying New Brunswick. And sad to say, please stop it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charlie Cradaville once again. I wanted to ask if the most recent version of the planning board rules is the ones from November 2020. Have there been changes since then? I know there was discussion at one point about changing.
I'm not sure. I think that sounds right, but I can't confirm that it'll be accurate.
Okay, well, perhaps it's a good time then for the board to reflect on, the rules, the discussions that have happened in the past couple years, and think about making some changes. One issue I've brought up is the issue of being an objector without an attorney, and I know that's something we had a lot of dialogue about. I know there was another issue regarding how to count abstentions that was discussed at a prior meeting this year, and I don't know that any changes came of that yet. And one thing that I really do want to emphasize, and I'll close with this, is just that the TAC process, the Technical Advisory Committee of this board, could be more transparent. There's no reason that it should be so secretive. And I would encourage you to incorporate that into the next version of your rules where, for instance, people who want to know what projects are coming down the pike could attend a TAC meeting or could at least see the agenda for the TAC meeting so that they know what types of projects are being vetted for this board. And I think then you'd have a lot more people getting answers to their questions and engaging in constructive dialogue here rather than kind of reading about something in the paper and showing up and finding out everything all at once and kind of having a feeling like it's happening too fast. So I think the TAC exists for a reason, and as far as I know, that reason is not to keep things out of the public eye. So I would encourage you to open up the TAC meetings because it has been done in the past and the sky did not fall. I don't know why the change was overturned, but you should change it back so that TAC meetings are open to the public. And would encourage you to continue the dialogue if you have anything to share with me, that's all.
Thank you. Does anyone else have general comments that you'd like to make, or comments about anything? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
I don't know if, I think we have to stay here forever because we don't have a forum.
No, I did ask him. Okay.
We're trapped
We
here.
have to stay until the next meeting.
Thank you for everybody's time.
Next time, can we do something about the audio? I caught about 10% of what was going on.
I don't know why that mic
All of
wasn't
us
working.
in the back were just out of the loop.
Yeah, all right, thank you. We'll try to address that, at least for the December meeting. I don't think we don't have these problems in the other meeting.
We don't have microphones in the others.
And we don't have problems with
Doesn't seem to be a
people on
problem
here.
with the voices.
But here, it just doesn't carry, so, yeah.